Hello, I am Superviber T302, and this is going to be my marathon submission video for Super Mario Galaxy 2 Any%. So this is a long run, so let's just dive right into it in 3, 2, 1, go! So, as is the nature with Super Mario Galaxy speedruns, the beginning of this game is about 2.5 minutes of just an introduction sequence. There's nothing too much to explain here, so while we're here, I'm going to kind of go into how Any% in this game works. So, there isn't really anything you can do in the terms of like major sequence breaking, so the fastest way to beat this game is to collect 70 stars in order to unlock Bowser's Galaxy Generator, which is the final level of the game. And then in order to actually beat the game, we need to collect the Grand Star from there in order to trigger the credits. So this is kind of a 71 star run, if you want to call it that. So within a minute of the game's story, we're introduced to this little Luma guy, and he's going to go into Mario's hat and basically give us the ability to do everything, aka spin. So with spinning, you can like kill enemies, you can hit switches, you can take launch stars, you can gain more height from jumps. You basically can't beat the game without it. So right here is the first trick of the run. Let's see if I can get this. Got it, nice. So if you, unlike Galaxy 1, you can't climb up slopes in this game, but if you land on them with a high amount of speed and then jump within the first few frames of landing on them, then you can get those nice little boosts off. Like you'll see me go for a couple of those throughout the run, and they can be pretty cool loot. They can be pretty cool loot looking. So we just kind of have a bunch of text to mash through here. So if you've ever seen me run this game for marathons in the past, this submission video might look a little different than usual because this is my first submission video where I'm going to be doing the new route that was created last May, I want to say. It saves around 15 to 20 seconds over the older route we used to do. It doesn't change too much, but there's been some... It just kind of just swaps a couple things out and does a few things in a different order. I'll go into more details on the route later when we get later into the run and it actually starts becoming relevant. So now we have a potential for a text skip that I'm not really going to go for, but let's see if I get it. So on this set of 4 text boxes, if you match slowly, if you waste a few frames on the first 2, I got it, nice. If you waste a few frames on the first 2 and then get the third one frame perfect, you can skip the fourth one. It doesn't save that much time, but... And it's frame perfect in 60 frames per second, so it's pretty rare that I actually get it, even if I were to go for it, but it's a nice little time save you can get every now and then. And with that, we're jumping right into the first star of the run, Sky Station 1. And this is a pretty action-packed star right from the get-go. So, we're going to do a sequence break right off the bat here. Instead of going to the bottom half of the planet, I'm just going to wall jump onto this planet, or wall jump on top of this platform. And if I stand still after that Luma's done talking to me, that cutscene ends about half a second earlier, so I can get into the launch star early. So right there, you kind of saw the camera twitch there. That was me going into first-person mode and then exiting it as soon as possible. That cancels the landing animation you get when you normally land on a launch star. It takes about 1 second each time you do it, and it'll add up over the course of the entire run. So right there, I just did a trick called Luma Bounce, where you can do a homing ground pound off that Luma to skip its launch star. It saves about 1 second, and if you fail it, you die. But it looks cool and it's early on in the run and it's not terribly difficult, so it's always worth showing off. So that is the first of many comet medals I'll be collecting in this run. I'll get more into what those do throughout the run, but just know that I'll be wanting to collect those for a good majority of this run, and there's one in each galaxy I'll be visiting. And as you saw, their backwards momentum is superior to forwards momentum, so we can do cool stuff like this. And that was a really good level. So now we have our first boss fight of the run. This is Pee-wee Piranha. So what you're intended to do for this boss is spin out its shell 2 or 3 times to shatter the egg, but I'm just going to ground pound the thing once, and that shatters the egg entirely. And I had some started saved up so that he wouldn't get away from me as good on that first hit. This second hit's a lot easier because he runs away a lot slower. And there we go. So that fight can be a little bit tricky, especially if you mess up the timing on the spin, or if you mess up the timing on the ground pound. You can get hit or have him run away from you, and that loses a lot of time. But that's our first star done. And something that's worth pointing out about this game, especially for the case of marathons, is that this game does have a lot of downtime. There's usually around 45 seconds to a minute on average between stars. So, yeah, prepare for a lot of moments where there might not be much to say. But I'll try to do what I can to fill in the dead space in between stars. So here we just have a little bit of story. This fat purple idiot that's on my screen right now, his name is Lubba, but because he's a purple idiot, we're just going to call him Purple Idiot for the rest of the run, and it'll make more sense at the very end of the run. Basically, he's telling us some sob story about how this crappy little spaceship ran into Bowser, and he took all of their stars. So now he's going to use the power of this one star that we got to transform this crappy little spaceship into Starship Mario, which is going to be the hub world for the game. And over the course of the game, we're going to be unlocking a bunch of NPCs and stuff on the Starship. It's kind of nice, but for the sake of speedrunning, all we really care about whenever we're on the Starship is to get to this yellow button as quickly as possible, because that'll take us to this Super Mario Bros. 3S world map, which is where we'll be going from galaxy to galaxy. So right here, I'm going to hold down after all these text boxes are cleared, because that will make Mario face the camera. If Mario's facing the camera after all the text boxes are cleared, usually it's better to do a backflip to the button, like you saw me do there. If Mario isn't facing the camera, usually I'll just have him turn around and then backflip to the home. There are also some situations where Lubba will bring you to different areas of the Starship, but we'll get to those when we get to those. So here we're presented with a little bit of a choice as to where to go to next. I'm actually going to go back to Sky Station and get the second star at Sky Station. It's something I should probably explain now. Whenever there's a clear star on the star select menu, which is basically any star I haven't collected yet, I'm going to point my Wii Remote off screen, and that will just allow me to just mash A and I can auto-select that star. There are going to be some instances throughout the run where I do have to point my Wii Remote at the screen to select that star, but again, those are pretty rare. So at the start of Sky Station 2, there's a pretty tight chomp cycle I'm going to try and catch here. Nice, I got it. It doesn't waste too much time if you miss it, but it's nice to get that as early as you can. And right here, you would think doing a long jump would be fastest, but instead doing a single jump is better just because of the way the gravity works on the planet. And that stand still to make the cutscene and early trick doesn't work anywhere else in the game, so I can do whatever I want during those sections. Alright, so this planet I have to have pretty good movement because it's another platform cycle I want to try to make when I get inside this cylinder. The movement here can be pretty complicated. Right, so I was able to skip grabbing that 1-up. It doesn't really matter if you skip grabbing that 1-up or not. You get a text box on the first 1-up you grab, but I'm basically guaranteed to get a 1-up at some point during the run, so it's not like I can really skip that text box. So here we have our first instance of flip switches. Basically, you step on all of them to transform them into a different color, and it causes something to be unlocked, in this case another set of flip switches. And here are the Cosmic Clones. These guys copy your inputs frame perfectly, and they're not so bad here, but they can be pretty annoying later on. And you'll be seeing those guys a lot more throughout the run. So this last planet is relatively straightforward. There's not a lot to say about it. So I'm going to actually take this time to explain another method of doing landing cancels. I talked earlier about how I use first-person mode to cancel landing animations. That works in most cases. However, there are some instances where you can't actually change the camera and go into first-person mode, such as when you land, like when you initially land in a level. So for those instances, what you're going to be seeing me try to do is try to get a jump on a specific frame when I land, and you can actually jump out of the landing animation like that. The only problem is, again, that is frame perfect in 60 FPS, so I probably won't get it too many times, if any, throughout this run, but it can be a nice little time saver of about a second if you get it. Here, Lubba's going to mention co-op mode. That's not going to be really relevant to this run, but if you have a second player, they take the form of an orange Luma, and they can do stuff like hold on to enemies, grab coins and star bits, and kill at some kinds of enemies, and hit switches from far away. For the sake of this run, I'm just going to be doing with 1P. It doesn't really have much of an advantage for speedrunning anyways, so it's better to just use one player. Or at least that's what a majority of people do. So here is Yoshi Star Galaxy. Yoshi is the most broken thing in this game. because of a glitch you can do called infinite fluttering. So when you're on Yoshi, obviously, like with most games that have Yoshi, you have a little flutter jump you can do. Normally you're not able to chain flutters in quick succession because there's a cooldown time in between flutters. But if you crouch mid-flutter, that cancels both the flutter and the cooldown and enables you to flutter again. So I'm going to be using that trick to go for a pretty big skip in this star. This is one of the trickier infinite flutters in the run, though. It saves about 20 seconds and loses 45 if you fail it. So let's see how this goes. So first I gotta get over this metal hop in here. Alright, I got it first try. Nice. So yeah. When you're doing infinite flutters, typically the best angle you want to go at if you want to get speed is sideways and slightly in the direction of Yoshi's back. But after about 10 seconds in the air, Yoshi starts to lose pretty much almost all of that speed, and you can only flutter slowly to the front or side from there on out. And here I'm going to use infinite fluttering to gain a little bit of height. You can also use it to gain height as well as cross large distances. And so that's actually why I dismounted off of Yoshi at the end of that infinite flutter, because when you dismount off of Yoshi, you maintain all the momentum you had, and that allows me to enter the gravity field of that planet. And yeah, I'm going to be doing that kind of thing a lot, because in the famous words of Carl Sagan 42, Yoshis are tools to be used and discarded. At least I think it was Carl Sagan who said it. Anyways. So yeah, pretty much every time I get on Yoshi in this run, there's most likely going to be some kind of infinite flutter I do. And sometimes the infinite flutters are minor, but other times they can save a lot of time. Also, for that flutter in particular, that one's tricky because I have to bounce off that berry in order to keep enough momentum for that skip to be possible. And in order to bounce off the berry without eating it, you have to actually press B right before you land on it, so Yoshi sticks his tongue out and he's unable to eat the fruit. So in Yoshi Star 1, we used infinite fluttering to skip one planet. In Yoshi Star 2, we can use infinite fluttering to skip basically the entire level. So basically, as soon as I get on Yoshi, I'm going to infinite flutter straight to the boss planet. This flutter isn't nearly as complicated as the one in Yoshi Star 1, aside from just a minor camera change midway through that I have to be wary of. Alright, perfect. So yeah, that infinite flutter saves, I don't know, a minute. It saves a lot of time because you skip basically all the other planets. So this is Giga Like-He-2. He is the kind of the first pointer-based boss in this game, and pointer-based boss, anything pointer-based in this game is usually terrible, especially if you have a really, really uncooperative sensor bar. So because this is a reset list, I'm going to play it safe and grab this checkpoint. I have died to this boss during marathon runs, and never again. Alright, here's a cool glitch you can do. If you uncrouch and spin on the same frame, you get that coolness sliding animation. It's completely useless. So right there I did a strat where I hit each of those spinies with Yoshi's tongue once, so that I could get both of them in the knockdown state, and then I could fire one at Giga Like-He-2, and then get the second one in Yoshi's mouth before the first one makes contact. And that allows me to... I thought I missed that shot there. That allows me to get that early hit without having to wait for Giga Like-He-2 to throw spinies out. I actually thought I missed that. It doesn't save that much time if you miss it or not, if you get it or not, but it helps speed that boss up a little bit. So that's the first 4 stars of the run done. And thankfully they all went pretty well. Early game in this run can be really difficult to get out of. And now we can finally move on in World 1. So up next is Spin Dig Galaxy, and this is where we're going to be introduced to the first of Mario's actual power-ups. And this power-up is actually new to this game. It's one of many that are new to this game. It is the Spin Drill. So when you have this power-up, you can dig through certain types of planets that have dirt on them, and you can end up on the other side of the planet. You're intended to use that a lot throughout this star, but one thing you'll learn very quickly about this game is that Nintendo didn't take into account that you can jump in this game when designing a lot of planets. So there's a lot of really easy unintended strats you can do. By the way, that was a jump cancel right there. So yeah, instead of taking the Spindra on this planet, you can just triple jump up to that Luma. That actually saves a lot of time. So on this second planet, I'm going to utilize another homing ground pound to collect the Spindra a little bit quicker. This is the same trick you saw me use for Luma bounce earlier. So when you do a spin followed by a ground pound, you'll home in on any enemies, items, or NPCs that are nearby. And if you do a homing ground pound into that Spindra like that, you can get a little bit of momentum. So here I'm going to do a skip where I jump backwards into the corner of that pillar, and that kind of clips me inside of it so that I can save a few seconds of walking. This next planet is pretty boring, so I'm going to take this time to explain. You might have noticed that I haven't been collecting star bits, and I've actually been shooting out any star bits I have. And that's actually because if you have star bits in your inventory after you collect a star, there's text boxes that count them down. And if you can avoid those text boxes, it takes about 1 second each time that happens. And as for where I'm going to be getting my star bits from for this run, we'll get to that. So I have star bits saved up for a skip here. So Captain Toad wants to talk to me, but I don't want to talk to him, so I'm going to go into first person mode upon landing and shoot him in the face. So that was a pretty decent level. So this is Dig-a-Leg. This boss is one of the first real instances of RNG in this run. This game, for how long this run is, there's very little RNG in this run. And the RNG on this boss isn't too significant. So on this and the next hit, he can jump either to the left or the right. I didn't get good RNG. You actually want him to jump on top of you, because then he jumps straight to the other side of the battlefield and becomes vulnerable right away. Which can save a little bit of time. So let's see if I can get good RNG here. You also want to try to keep these yellow enemies alive as much as possible. Because then he won't try to spawn anymore. Oh, I thought I went a little early there. If you go too early, you'll like bonk on the other side and get sent all the way back, and that can be pretty costly. That was a pretty decent fight. And now instead of walking all the way to the star, I'm lazy, so I'm just going to go straight to it. So yeah, that's somewhat of a long-winded star, but I am required to collect it in this run because there's simply no other way for me to progress in 1-1. It's one of 10 stars that you're required to get in order to beat the game. And as you see here, there are some stars that when you collect them, lava will bring you to the bottom of the starship here. And it's usually because it's an NPC that's been unlocked. And that's cool and all, but we don't care about anything lava has to say or offer for us. And so we're just gonna head straight back to the button as soon as possible. So up next, we're going to be going to Right Side Down. So this galaxy is a pretty interesting galaxy. It's one of the first galaxies to really toy with how well gravity works. So in this galaxy, there are arrows, and if they're blue and pointing down, gravity's on the floor. If they're red and pointing up, gravity's on the ceiling. And one reason why I like this level so much is I like to say this is the level Nintendo meant for you to break, because there's a lot of skips in this first star that are just mainly just because of convenient level design. So first we have this really cool backflip that can get me all the way down to this flower. Nice. So here you're intended to hit a gravity switch to flip in direction of gravity, but there's a conveniently placed item block right here that I can use to get all the way down to where I need to go to. I'm gonna go for another slow boost here. Got it. Here there's another gravity switch the game wants me to hit here, and that requires going very much out of my way, but these elevators are conveniently placed right next to where I need to go. And that saves, both of those skips combined save quite a bit of time. So coming up here we have the fire flowers, so I'm going to be going for a couple of pretty risky strats here. I'm going to be going for these block skips. I got the first one. So that one's probably the harder of the two. So skipping those boxes like that is extremely risky because if you mistime those jumps in the slightest wrong way, you'll get crushed by the boxes. And in this game, it doesn't matter how much health you have. If you get crushed, you're automatically dead. And that can lose a lot of time. And then here you can just skip the entire rest of that stage by just climbing up on the side of the level like that. We actually meant to go up there because there's one-ups in the 4 corners. And then you can just kind of awkwardly jump back into the main 2D stage and grab the star. That was a pretty good level. So I'm actually going to be re-entering Right Side Down now in order to collect the Secret Star, or Hidden Star as the game likes to call them. I call them Secret Stars. And I can skip the cutscenes for this star because I've already seen them. Which is a nice thing you can do. If you've already seen cutscenes, you can just match A to skip them. So at the start of this star, you're supposed to hit another gravity switch to get into this pipe, but again, you can jump in this game, so you can just jump and wall jump into the pipe instead. So here is a nice little box breaking minigame. These minigames are pretty tough casually, and even in speedrunning they can be really challenging to do optimally. There's a lot of really precise shots you have to make. And of course you're given a time limit. Already off to not that great of a start. Wow, 12 is actually really good for me. The best you can get on that is 14, barely, so a 12 is really, really good. So that's it for Right Side Down because there's no stars left for the rest of this run that I can collect there, so I'm able to move on in World 1. As you can see, I got that Galaxy Complete notification. So keep this guy in mind, this Toad here. He's going to be important later on. But with that, we're going to be moving on to Fluffy Bluff Galaxy, where we're going to be introduced to one of the more popular power-ups in the Mario franchise, the Cloud Flower. And this power-up kind of has its own set of broken physics, so there's a lot of cool things you can do with this power-up. For this first star, I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to do the secret first, contrary to what my splits say. So there's 100 coins I need to collect to feed a Hungry Luma. This is actually the first Hungry Luma in the game that you can do, but it requires the most coins, ironically. But there's 2 really good places you can go to collect huge amounts of coins, which is kind of how you're intended to do this. So here in this room, you just gotta collect all these coins. These coins are on a timer, and if the timer expires within these first 2 sets, you pretty much have to ditch the star, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this star first, because just in the case of a reset this run, it's better to have the other star as a backup you can do. But you want to leave that room with exactly 60, and then the remaining 40 are just on top of the cloud, where the limit is. You gotta be careful to not miss any here, or else it's pretty bad. You have to kind of go out of your way to get a couple extra coins. So now we're going to feed all the points to this Hungry Luma, and he's going to become so happy with being stuffed that he's going to transform it into an entire planet, because, you know, that makes sense. And we're going to be climbing up this planet very quickly. Once I get to this planet, I'm just going to kind of let the movement speak for itself, and then I'll explain some stuff afterwards. Nice. That went really well. So a few things to kind of note there. Every single time I make a cloud, pretty much, I'm going to be crouching as soon as I make the cloud, because that will actually cancel the cloud making animation and allow me to move right away. And another advantage that gives me is that I can actually utilize the clouds kind of upwards bounce, because in this game, if a platform underneath you is moving, the platform's momentum will be applied to your jumps. And so if the platform's moving up, then your jumps will go a lot higher. So next I'm going to be doing Fluffy Bluff 1, and there's a really big skip in this star. This is going to be one of the few levels where I don't collect the Kong Medal, because the skip just saves so much time. So you're actually not supposed to go on top of the tree in the star, but you'll see why we're doing this. So I want 2 clouds to go up to this cloud here. And now I'm going to long jump off this cloud here. And for some reason, when you're Cloud Mario and you long jump from the center of a cloud over an abyss, you can gain a lot of horizontal speed. So we can just use that to jump straight to the final planet of this level. And right there are cloud boosted long jumps. Kind of speaks for itself, and it's kind of an extension of that upwards momentum trick I talked about earlier. You basically create a cloud while you're grounded, and if you perform a long jump out of creating that cloud, you can gain quite a bit of upwards momentum. That's Fluffy Bluff 1. So this is going to be the first of several stars in this run. There are specific stars where when you utilize a power-up, you get brought down to this room, the engine room. Where the power-ups are just kind of contained in glass domes. There's not really much you do here, so I don't know why this room exists. And again, we don't care about what level it has for us, so we're just going to yeet on out of here and go straight back to the button. This movement can be pretty awkward, though. That triple jump can be really weird, and it's hard to get the right amount of momentum to curve around to fight it like that. We're going to be moving on to the first boss level of the run. So each of the 6 worlds has a boss level, and they alternate between Bowser Jr. and Bowser stages, just like in Galaxy 1. And usually they're the hardest... Usually they're some of the hardest levels in the run. This level is no exception to that rule. Not only is the stage itself pretty difficult, but the boss is known for being one of the hardest bosses, both casually and for speedrunning. So, in this stage here, I have a pretty tight jump cycle I need to make. The movement here is really tough. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna make the cycle. That's unfortunate. It doesn't lose too much time. So I can get up here with the swamp. And the boss planet has a huge gravity field for whatever reason, so I can skip the entire level by just jumping off. And doing that. Yeah, there's a lot of gravity exploits in this run where you can just enter the gravity field of a planet much earlier than intended. There's a lot more of them in Galaxy 1, but there's still quite a bit of them in this game. So for this boss fight, you're intended to have Gobblegut dig his face into the ground, and then as the Bellyache bulges get stuck in the ground, you can spin at them, but you can actually attack him while he's in the air. And with the strats I'm going to be doing here, you basically don't want anything to go wrong. So right here, I'm going to try to get bulges 5, 6, and 1 in order. This requires, right from this first block jump, this is hard. There we go. Alright, perfect first phase. So now in the second phase, I'm going to run down and in a straight line so that Gobblegut follows me and gets closer and closer to the planet. And then I'm going to turn around at a specific time and try to get the last 3 bulges back to back to back. That's 1, that's 2. And perfect Gobblegut, nice. I just made that fight look a lot easier than it actually is. That fight takes a very, very long time to get down. But it does look really impressive if you can pull it off optimally. And here's the best part. In this run, we actually have to fight Gobblegut twice. So that's fun. And with the collection of that Grand Star, we will be finished with World 1. That was actually a really, really good World 1. A 2901 is very, very solid for a reset list. So I hope you enjoyed this little cutscene here because you're going to have to deal with it after each of the first 5 worlds. Unfortunately, you can't really skip anything here. And so, when I say we're done with World 1, that basically means we're done with doing everything up to collecting the Grand Star. I am going to be coming back to World 1 to get some stars that I couldn't have gotten earlier, but Again, we'll get to that when we get to that. So World 2 is a pretty short. It's probably the shortest world segment in this run. We only collect 7 stars, including the Grand Star, during this segment, and we're in here for like around 21 minutes on average. And most of the stars here are pretty basic, but there's a couple of interesting stars here and there. And this is also where you're going to see the route divergence from the old route that I did in older marathons. So Puzzle Plane Galaxy doesn't necessarily have a whole lot going for it, aside from having a pretty well-known, popular song in it. The stage is mostly just having good movement, and a couple of minor sequence breaks here and there, which I'll explain while on the way. Yes! And so on this second planet, after I take this launch star, I'm going to skip going to the bottom half of the planet to ground pound some puzzle pieces by just backflipping and spinning into the launch star. Pretty simple. And a nice thing to know about spins in this game is that if you hold A, you'll spin higher. And with Mario, it's actually better to spin while holding with the Wii remote, and with Luigi, it's better to spin like that. I'm going to try a little skip here. I'm going to skip having to take that wall jump position by just triple jumping up there. That triple jump is actually really, really hard to do. Because the platform there sometimes eats your stones and you don't get the best momentum. So this last planet is really, really odd with the way the gravity works. Sometimes it's possible to hit these puzzle pieces more than one time with a single ground pound. It's pretty rare, and no one really knows why it happens. It kind of happens there, but I didn't get multiple hits. It can save a little bit of time if you get it. And now we get to fight this little mini boss that was present in Galaxy 1. This fight is very, very, very easy. And a lot of people hate this fight because you're basically killing a family, as you know, kill the animals. That was a pretty good puzzle plank. So after this star, we have a bit of an unskippable world map sequence where Lubba is going to, or I'm sorry, the Purple Idiot is going to talk to us about the Grand World Map, which is actually kind of useful and kind of an overlooked thing about Galaxy 2 speedruns. The Grand World Map allows you to travel from world to world as opposed to just from galaxy to galaxy, and that's really useful in this run, because let's say I'm in World 5 and I want to go to World 3. I can just zoom out to the Grand World Map and then navigate straight from World 5 to World 3 instead of having to backtrack all the way through. It'll make more sense once you actually see me use it. And I'm not going to start world jumping until midway through World 3, but it's just important to bring up now since Lubba spent some time talking about it. So this is Hightail Falls Galaxy. This is kind of a fan favorite level. I love both watching this level and also playing this level. This level we're introduced to the Dash Pepper, which is a Yoshi exclusive power-up. When you eat the Dash Pepper, Yoshi runs really, really fast, and you can also climb up walls. I'm also going to be collecting Star Bits during the start, since you can't spit out Star Bits while you're on Yoshi, so I might as well. There's a lot of Star Bits in this level. So the Dash Pepper's effects actually persist between launch stars. It's one of the few power-ups that does that. So I want to try to maintain the effect for as long as possible. And that's why I'm going to be running up the left side of this planet here. It's a lot harder than running up the right, but there's an extra Dash Pepper on the way that I can grab. And again, since it persists between the launch star, I can have it reserved for the next section here. And similarly on this planet, I'm going to try to get the Dash Pepper away. Like that. Alright, coming up, this is a pretty strange flutter strat here that I'm going to try to go for. So this strat was found by JDA7. It's relatively new. So basically, if you jump off that platform with Dash Pepper momentum, you can maintain that momentum while infinite fluttering forwards. You have to hold specific angles in order to not lose all your speed. This last strat's supposed to look pretty cool, but I messed it up unfortunately. Alright, there we go. That flutter strat I did there actually is something I just recently learned, so I'm very happy I was able to show that off in this run. And that strat at the end that I did there, so remember earlier how I said that when you dismount off of Yoshi, you maintain all your momentum? That's that concept applied to dismounting off of Dash Yoshi while traveling up a really steep slope. Yeah, you get a lot of height and distance from that. So up next, we're going to be going to Cosmic Cove Galaxy. This is somewhat of a resident sleeper level, but for speedrunning, there's a few noteworthy things about this level. So for Cosmic Cove 1 here, I'm actually going to be kind of multitasking during the star. I'm going to be collecting 15 coins to feed a Hungry Luma, but I'm not actually going to be going to do the secret star right away. And I'll explain why later. So I'm going to take a detour over here to grab this shell and these star bits. Because these worm enemies, if you shoot them with star bits, instead of just killing them normally, you get coins instead of star bits. And I want to do that for 2 of those. So, unlike Galaxy 1, where you can just spam spins underwater, in this game there's a cooldown between underwater spins, so it's actually better to just take the shell. You also do significantly less exercise with it, which is a plus. In Galaxy 1, there's a lot more use of your wrist to shake the mirror out really fast. So this huge line of coins here is right next to the Kama Medal, which is right next to the switch that freezes the lake, which I'm going to go to now by doing this cool little jump out of the water with the shell. And that's right next to the Hungry Luma. So because of the way everything's placed in this level, it's actually better to just go ahead and feed these 15 coins to the Hungry Luma while doing Cosmic Cove 1. And then go ahead and get the Waterfall Star, and then do the Hungry Luma Star later. So now I'm gonna just head over to the waterfalls and just wall jump up them since they're now ice instead of water as physics. This game likes to defy physics. There's a strange glitch that's never happened to me. Oh, okay, that was weird. Where sometimes you're just unable to wall jump up those waterfalls. I've seen it happen to like 1 or 2 people, but again, it's pretty rare. It's never happened to me, but if there's ever a time. So that was a pretty good level overall. And now we're coming up on probably one of the most important parts of this run. So for the most part, it's okay to have your Wii Remote pointed off screen to select clear stars. This is one of the few times where doing that is actually dangerous, because if I do that, I'll accidentally select Cosmic Cove 2, and I don't have access to the areas I need to have access for in order to get to the secret star. And Cosmic Cove 2 is like a 3-minute long star, so it's not worth doing 100%. So you would have to sit through the level intro cutscenes and then exit out, which would cost about a minute. But I just have to remember to select Cosmic Cove 1 and you save a minute, so cool beans. Now I just gotta make my way over to the launch star that I unlocked earlier. So as you can see here, I have to wait for that I have to wait for the Master Luma to come back in order to spin again. In Galaxy 1 you can just spin repeatedly over and over. I'm also collecting some star bits now for Trick Ops Lane once I actually get to the planet. So on this Hungry Luma planet is the only bunny in Galaxy 2. There's a lot more of these guys in Galaxy 1. This is the only one in this game. And there's a fast strat for this one. Let's see if I can get this. That should be good. Got it. Nice. So if you shoot that bunny with star bits, it just kind of runs the wrong way for no good reason. And so you can use that to catch the bunny. Normally you're supposed to hit that switch over there to freeze the lake, and then skate to catch the bunny. But that saves quite a bit of time over doing that instead. And you only really get one try at it. If you mess that up, you actually have to go ahead and freeze the lake. So coming up is the route divergence from older marathon runs I used to do. So I'm actually going to be going ahead and talking to this guy. This is the Bank Toad. So if you have star bits stored here on one save file, they persist between all 3 save files. And so I can use that to withdraw star bits from the Bank Toad. And these are the star bits I'm going to be using to unlock Hungry Luma Galaxies. This is sort of a new game plus kind of thing, but it's basically the standard for running this game, since actually collecting star bits to unlock these galaxies is tedious, and no one wants to do that. And although the process for unlocking Hungry Luma Galaxies, as you're about to see, it does take quite a bit of time, but a lot of the Hungry Luma stars are really, really fast, so they're definitely worth getting. So in the older route, we would actually go back and do Boulder Bowl 1 as star number 15. I'm actually going to be holding off on doing that star for quite a while. And instead we're going to be going straight into Honey Bloom Galaxy. And I'm actually going to be collecting both stars here, something, again, we didn't used to do. So Honey Bloom's Secret, the first star I'm going to be doing, this is probably the fastest non-green star in the game. There's a secret star literally located right at the beginning of the level that takes less than 20 seconds to get. And once again, I'm just going to kind of let the movement speak for itself. Alright, that was good. Yeah, that's not a very difficult star, and it's very fast, so definitely worth it to be in the route. And here's going to be a bit of an overlapping of events. So because I just collected Honey Bloom's Secret, that unlocks an NPC on the starship. And as you can see, 16 seconds in-game time. That star is definitely worth it. But also because I collected 15 stars, I'm going to get a letter from the Mail Toad. And so after this, I'm going to be warped straight up to the Mail Toad to get the letter. And so this will just save a few seconds of travel time. And now it's time for Honey Bloom 1, which it was believed for a very long time that this star was too slow to be in the route. This star replaces Supermassive 1. It's actually slower in game time than Supermassive 1, but that time loss is mostly balanced out by the fact that I get to skip the level intro cutscenes. This star is pretty much entirely in 2D, so there's not really a whole lot you can do in terms of major sequence breaks. This star is pretty much all about movement. This next section, however, is pretty tricky. So you're not normally supposed to stand on these clouds and flowers without the bee mushroom. But you actually have a few frames where you're able to jump on them. And right here is probably the hardest part of this entire level. This jump is really risky. I got it. Nice. So if you mistime that jump at all, or if you miss that jump or get hit by that enemy, you fall all the way down and you lose a ton of time. And that allows you to skip Bee Mario for that section. Here, unfortunately, I have to have Bee Mario because it's just not possible to get through this part of the level without it. And Bee Mario is very slow. So I'm actually going to intentionally take damage from this enemy here so I can lose it. And then get through this section a little bit quicker. Oh. I haven't exactly refined my movement here yet. So for the rest of this level, I'm just going to be flying around with Bee Mario. It's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm actually going to go ahead and explain why this route saves time. So again, this star is slower in game time than Supermassive 1, but by not doing Supermassive, I'm able to skip both a path unlock cutscene and a comet spawn cutscene on the world map, and they'll save about 5 seconds each. In addition to that, doing this star now enables me to do Boulder Bowl 1 later in the route, and that actually allows me to end World 4 one comet level shorter than before, which will cause a comet spawn cutscene to overlap with a Grand Star cutscene. And that'll allow me to skip that Grand Star, Comet Unlock cutscene, which saves another 5 seconds or so. So it's not really that that star is fast by any means, but it allows for some world map optimizations that just make it just fast enough to get into the route. But yeah, it's definitely one of the hardest stars to do optimally enough for it to be in the route. So it takes a lot of practice to get down. And the cloud jumps are very, very precise. But with that, we're going to be moving on to the boss level of World 2, which is Bowser's Lava Lair. So this stage is pretty interesting in my opinion. It's one of my favorite stages to go through just because there's not really any like major skips you do here. Well, there is one there's kind of one at the very end, but there's a lot of tiny sequence breaks that just add up over the course of the entire run. And this is a very fun level to do. So at the very start here, you're supposed to kill this Magic Koopa to make a full star appear so you can get to this next section, but you can just long jump into the gravity field instead. It's pretty easy. And here I'm going to skip the spring by just doing the side flip. So here's the first place in the run where I'm actually going to be grabbing the Life Shroom, or the Mushroom of Shame, depending on what you want to call it. That gives you 3 extra hits of health, and I need at least 4 HP for the very end of the level, so it's very critical that I don't go below that, or else I'll lose the extra hits of health. So here I'm going to be doing a lava boost to skip having to kill that hammer bro. And I need to make sure I only take 2 bounces here, or else I do not really set up a lot of health. So I have the camera turned here so that the wonks ahead are off camera so that they don't move. And here I'm going to store a triple jump by double jumping into the lava. And then when I land, I can immediately do a triple jump, which makes getting that comet medal a little bit quicker. So what I meant to do there was try to get a jump off the top of that womp, because when the womp rises upwards, I can get a really huge jump, and with enough backwards, and I can use the backwards momentum gained from that jump to go all the way to that meteor, which could save a little bit of time. So here's the big skip. I can skip a bunch of snake block auto-scrolling by just lava boosting over here, and then if I space it out properly, I can just run for the rest of the statues. And you need 4 HP to do that. There is a slightly slower strat that only requires 3 HP, but that's the faster strat. So how that strat works, normally when you bounce on lava in this game and then land in the lava, that was very sad. Normally when you bounce on lava in this game and then land on the ground, you do a short little bounce and then you can regain control of Mario. But if you do that short little bounce and then land in the lava again, the game will remember that you did that short bounce, and so once you land on the ground after landing from the lava a second time, you can immediately begin moving. And that allows the spacing to work out for you to be able to long jump across those statues. Messed up my text timing there. So Bowser fights in this game are not really as interesting as they are in Galaxy 1. And they're all pretty much the same thing, save for a couple minor differences that I'll get to. So in these fights, basically Bowser just yells, which somehow summons meteors, and then he tries to punch you, and he gets his fist stuck in the ground, and while he's trying to pull it out, you can ground meteors into him. You have to do this a total of 4 times. This fight's pretty basic. I am trying to optimize these hits by having him punch as close to the meteors as possible, and then ground pound the meteors at an angle so that they travel the least amount of difference between myself and Bowser. So for the last 2 hits, Bowser will breathe fire before punching, and I actually want to pay attention to where this fire attack ends, because that's where he's going to start aiming his next punch, and I can manipulate him into punching right away if I know where he's going to start punching. Also, yeah, keep in mind he can punch out the meteors. So I have to be very careful that Bowser doesn't punch too close to the meteors. And any missed hit on these fights wastes about 20 seconds. So it's very crucial that you don't do that. Oh boy, I don't like this position at all, so I'm actually going to try to lure him away. If Bowser punches all the meteors out, which is harder to do when he summons 3 of them, but I think it can still happen, then you have to basically wait an entire cycle, and that, again, loses about 20 seconds. So that's it for Bowser's Lava Lair. So we won't be seeing Bowser again for like another hour or so. And with the collection of this Grand Star, we will be done with World 2. Not too bad of a World 2 segment. So next up is the World 3 segment of the run. This is where I would say the run really starts to ramp up in difficulty. And obviously there's been a ton of difficult tricks so far throughout this run, but this is where I would say it really starts to get punishing. The tricks become a lot more difficult, and failing them usually results in massive time losses. So hopefully hopefully I can get things to go as swimmingly as possible, but that can be very hard with some of the tricks you do in World 3. World 3 has also received somewhat of a reroute recently, but rather than replacing stars, they're just going to be done in a slightly different order. And it saves a world map movement. And then also I do the back. And this is also going to be the first world where we're going to start world jumping and doing some backtracking stuff. But that won't be relevant until I have collected a good number of stars from World 3 itself. So first off, we have Cloudy Court. So if you enjoyed the cloud boosting action from Fluffy Bluff, you get a little bit more of that here. This star doesn't have anything too noteworthy, but I'll go ahead and bring this up now. There are crushers in the 2D section at the very end of this level that are on a cycle, and they have a Kama Medal in the middle of them. It's actually possible to make it through the crushers and grab the Kama Medal without having to wait. But that can be pretty tricky, but that's not until the end of the level. So at the start here, I'm going to be using this a couple of times. This is what I like to call 4 cloud strats. So I cloud boost into that cloud flower, which will replenish my clouds and allow me to use the other 3 clouds to cross that gap. And you essentially use 4 clouds for that, hence the 4 cloud strats. Here I'm going to do a little launch star skip by just using clouds to jump over this abyss. And thankfully that Akuma didn't try to snipe me. Okay. I could have spawned there for safety, but I'm pretty sure I can make it. So now I'm in this little 2D section. I'm going to use clouds. I'm just going to kind of jump up here instead of actually riding the wind. I'm going to do another 4 cloud strat here. And I can get just enough height to make it on top of this wall. So now we're coming up on the crushers. I'm going to go for the 1 cycle here. My setup for this isn't too hard, but you do kind of have to be quick on your feet here, and I got it. Nice. That was really good. That wasn't too bad of a level overall. But yeah, again, if you're a little too slow on that, it's easy to get... There's several different setups for that. If you're a little too slow in getting out of there, it's super easy to get crushed. And then you just die, and you go all the way back to the start of the 2D section, which is, again, really, really punishing. In this game, you actually have to grab physical checkpoints instead of just the checkpoints just being there when you enter a section. So if you don't grab those checkpoints, which tends to happen when you do big skips, then sometimes dying can set you back a very large distance, which makes this game a lot more punishing. So, Freezy Flake Galaxy, I'm going to be doing the Secret Star first, and this is the first star where I get to have a little bit of fun with the chat. Obviously, this is just a local recording, so there is no chat for me to have fun with, but in an actual marathon run, this would be where viewers get to participate and do a little bit of a guessing minigame. So, in this star, I'm going to be facing our friend the Chimp, who we saw back in Fluffy Bluff 1. And he's going to challenge us to try to beat his high score in the skating minigame. And the minigame duration timer is fixed, so there's no way to stop the timer early by beating the score. And it doesn't lose time to get as high of a score as possible. So, for guessing scores, you can guess anywhere between 500 and 900, because 500 is what you need to beat the game, and 900, I'm not going to go any higher than 900. And You can only get some multiples of 10. And I'm skating backwards. This isn't something I normally do, it's just something fun to show off. If you press Z while skating, you can just skate backwards for no good reason, and it looks funny. It doesn't affect your physics at all, although it makes the controller a little bit weird. So, the patterns you can get for this are fixed, but what's random about them is they can be rotated one of, I believe, 3 different ways. Yeah, I already got the score required, so... we can take it as far as we want. If I had gotten that last one, I could have gotten 850, which is really, really good. But 800 is still pretty solid. Yeah, if you guessed 800, or if you were to guess 800 or anywhere close to that, you would, by definition, win. And if anybody misses their opportunity to do that during that star, there's an opportunity later on in the run. And it's kind of the same thing. So, keep your eyes open for that. So next we're going to be going to Freezy Flake 1. This is a pretty short star, and it doesn't have a whole lot going for it, but there are a couple of really tricky things about the star, including a really tight cycle I have to make. That costs around 20 seconds if you don't make it. Alright, that early fireball throw is really his fault. So I'm going to try to make it to the Comet Medal in the next section using this Fire Flower. I have to make this Fire Flower last all the way to the Comet Medal. And that, I have like a couple seconds of leeway. Fortunately, the movement's not very complicated. Alright, I get it. But as you can see, yeah, the Fire Flower just runs out by the time you make it there, so you have to be really quick on your feet. Because if you miss that, then you have to grab that Fire Flower and get that Comet Medal, and then wait for the next one to appear, because you just don't have enough time to make that Fire Flower last until you blow up the Bowser statue. And yeah, on this planet, on that area, you can just kind of skip having to roll snowballs around to create platforms to cross the lava by just lava boosting behind the Bowser statue. It's a pretty simple skip. And since I have now collected 3 stars from World 3, we're gonna get a visit from everyone's favorite unimportant brother, Luigi. So from this point onward, Luigi is going to start appearing at the start of various stars, and you can talk to him and switch to playing as him for that 1 star. But it takes time to talk to him, and you can only use him for that 1 star. He does run faster and jump higher than Mario, but since he talks to you both before and after the star, it's never worth it to switch to Luigi for any percent. You can switch between Mario and Luigi freely after the any percent portion of this game, but this is just any percent, so you're never going to see Luigi in this run. So at the start of Honey Halls 1 here, I'm going to turn the camera to the left a few times. Like you saw in a lava layer earlier, when moving objects aren't on camera, they just don't move. And so by doing that, I'm able to manipulate the platforms at the start of this section here. Unfortunately, I got hit there, so I'm not going to be able to... I'm just going to wait here. If I didn't get hit there, I could have gone for a fast cycle. That's only possible, really, by changing the camera like that. It only saves like a couple seconds if you get it. And I can also get that checkpoint. You would have to skip out on that checkpoint if you did the cycle manipulation. So those first 2 platforms are actually cycle-based. These 2 platforms start moving when you enter a certain trigger radius. And again, because you can long jump in this game, you can skip having to wait on most of them. I'm gonna try to catch it. Okay, no. Alright, I'm just gonna wait for the next platform to appear. It's very easy to die by getting too greedy in this section. And we get Yoshi in this next section, so you can probably guess what we're going to do. here's this power-up, by the way, is the Bullberry. It lights up floors underneath you that otherwise don't exist. Obviously, you don't really need it for that star. I just grab it as sort of a safety precaution, but you'll see it later on some other stars. And something really important just happened, and that's that I got my 4th star from World 3. So from this point onwards, comets are going to start appearing, and this is what I've been collecting the comet medals for, and I'm going to continue to collect comet medals for throughout this entire run. So comets are basically modified versions of stars, and I'll get more into what they are later when I actually start collecting them. For now, I'm just going to kind of let comets build up in worlds, in the early worlds, and then I'll go back to them and do some cleanup sessions later on. So next is Honey Halls 2. This is the star I like to call Long Jump Simulator 2010, because this star is basically just long jumping from beginning to end with a few spins here and there, because there's launch stars and sling stars you have to enter. Optimizing long jumps in this game is actually a bit more complex than you might think. In order to long jump optimally, you want to actually press Z and A. When you're initiating a long jump from a run, that was annoying. You actually want to press Z and A at around the same time so that Mario doesn't enter the crouching animation before he jumps. Otherwise, if you initiate a long jump from running, don't do it optimally, and then stop, Mario kind of stops in place before he goes back to running speed again. And if you minimize the crouching time, then he won't stop. Also, when you're chaining long jumps like I am here, there's a small frame window where you can press A optimally to not have to pause for as long. That long jump is really risky. If you're off by even the slightest amount, you'll just fall to the floor and die. And also, you need to have a pretty decent amount of acceleration to long jump. With Mario, it's fairly lenient, but with Luigi, who again I'm not going to be using in this run, you need a lot more acceleration. But it's really easy to get too greedy when trying to start long jumps, and you'll accidentally backflip instead of just jumping the long jump move, which is really embarrassing and waste quite a bit of time. So again, I'm just letting comets build up in Worlds 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to be making some backtracking sessions to them, with the first one being after I'm finished collecting stars in World 3. So we're going to be heading up to the next Hungry Luma galaxy here. So this Hungry Luma, and I believe the one in World S is also like this, but we're not going to see World S in this run. For some reason, the last star bit always shoots out later than the rest of them do, and I have no idea why. And it's actually kind of useful because, as you can see there, since you can move during the Hungry Luma cutscenes, I set up a backflip so I can land on the helm a second or two faster, and it makes setting up the backflip and timing it a little easier. So this Hungry Luma galaxy is beat block. It has a pretty interesting gimmick where there's yellow and green blocks. At every 8 beats of the song for this first star, it'll switch between the yellow ones being active and the green ones being active. That makes this first star a very heavily cycle-based star. This is also kind of just a bunch of long jumps, but this star is a bit more technical, and you also need to be a bit more precise with your jumps. I'm actually going to kind of play it a little bit slow in this first section, because otherwise I have a chance of getting caught on the green blocks up ahead. And that can really screw up your movement. But from here on out, things should be really slow. Alright, perfect. So I made the fast cycle here, which is really good. It loses quite a bit of time to make a later cycle. And that last long jump is really finicky because the angle you need for that long jump is not in the notches of your controller. And if you miss the angle by even a slight amount, it's easy to miss the block or bonk and die. So next star I'm going to be doing is Tall Trunk 1. It's going to be the only star I collect from Tall Trunk. And this star is actually a pretty cool star to do in runs. There's a lot of really neat tech you get to do, and there's a lot of cool tricks you can do. This is also one of the... It's a really satisfying star to pull off everything in, but it's one of the hardest stars to get everything in. So on the very first planet, you're supposed to use Yoshi and the Blimp Fruit to climb up the entire tree. But the Blimp Fruit is slow, and so is Infinite Fluttering upwards with Yoshi. And Mario's a very skilled acrobat, so I'm actually able to just use his various jumps and whatnot to scale the tree without Yoshi, which can take a few seconds. But it's also way more difficult. That long jump in particular is really finicky. Side flipping in this game is impossible, by the way. Side flipping in any 3D Mario is pretty bad. So now we can actually start using Yoshi because we need him for a few things. Starting with this pretty tough Infinite Flutter here to grab this Comet Medal. Since it's straight backwards. Alright, I got it. That's a straight backwards Infinite Flutter, so if you mess that up, if you mess up grabbing the Comet Medal, you actually have to flutter forwards, which kills your ability to go straight backwards. And so you would have to grab the Blimp Fruit, which is really, really slow. And in one full fall there, I can just kind of grab all 5 of those starships. And I ditched Yoshi here because it makes getting to this launch star faster, and also because I can do a ground pound at the start of this next planet and travel all the way down in a really short amount of time. Now here, unfortunately, I don't really have any other choice but to use the Blimp Fruit. Because, again, Infinite Fluttering upwards is actually a lot slower than doing this. There is some optimization you can do for this part. Here I'm going to be shaking out of one mode with the nunchuck instead of the Wii Remote, so that I can keep my pointer pointed at the next Blimp Fruit and don't have to deal with my pointer spazzing out all over the place. And Yoshi could have gotten his chance to shine there, but nope. So now we're going to be heading into the Comet portion, the first Comet collecting session of the run. So we're going to start with Platycor's Comet. So Comet stars are modified versions of stars that are usually have some sort of challenge presented in them. And it does sometimes require going out of your way to collect Comet Medals, and to unlock the Comets, but the Comet stars are usually really fast. In order to unlock a Comet, you need the Comet Medal from that galaxy and a certain number of Comet Medals total. So for example, here I have the Comet Medal from this galaxy, and you only need 1 Comet Medal for Platycort. So this is the first Cosmic Cone Comet. Basically, those Cosmic Cones from Sky Station 2, I'm going to have to deal with them for almost this entire star. This first section, however, I can mitigate them for the most part if I just barely touch the edges of these starships. It doesn't really save or lose time to do this, but it's cool to show off. Oh. Okay, kind of lost time there, but as you saw there, the Cosmic Cones should have appeared on the second starship, but because I just barely touched it, they didn't spawn. And now we're in the 2D section, which is where they're at their worst. So if you mess up in these wall jumping sections, they also mess up in the wall jumping section. So when you try to get back up, they're all in your way, and it's impossible to get back up. But fortunately, it's pretty straightforward to the point where if you know what you're doing, you should be making a mistake. And there we go. So, I don't quite have enough stars to finish World 3 yet, so I'm actually going to be going back to Worlds 1 and 2 and getting some stars that just unlocked or I couldn't get earlier. And that's actually going to be the first star I collect. So, Platycor's Comet unlocks every Cosmic Cone Comet in the game, and that star I'm about to collect is one of them. And I'm collecting this star now because it actually unlocks every Purple Coin Comet in the game. And I'm going to be doing some Purple Coin Comets in World 4, so I need to collect this star now. This is a deceptively difficult star. Because these groups of 4 purple coins, I'm going to try to run through them without having to stop for each group of 4. And you need to have very specific lineups in order to not have to miss one of the coins in each group. And also you have cosmic coins chasing you. This long jump here is pretty stylish. Alright, so I should be good from here on out. I'm going to be doing these little bunny hops that I'm kind of speed Mario up, because when you're in the air like this, you have a little bit of extra speed. Alright, that was really good. Other than missing that one purple coin, which didn't even cost me that much time, that was still really solid. So that's actually the only star I'm going to be collecting from World 2 for now. There's other stars that I'm going to be collecting later just for routing convenience. And I'm going to be heading back to World 1, and I'm going to be getting 2 comets and the Hungry Luma star. So first off, we're going to be heading to Sky Station Comet. This is the first speed run with a space, because Nintendo doesn't know how to spell speed run. This is the first speed run comet of the run. And these stars require you to finish the star within a certain time limit. This game has unique changes to some of these stars. For example, this star is a lot shorter than Sky Station 1, so it's definitely worth doing. But you also only have 20 seconds when starting out. But there's these clocks you can collect throughout the star that add 10 seconds to your time. And you basically kind of have to collect, you want to try to collect as few of those you want to have to go out of your way to collect as few of those as possible. But you need like at least 1 or 2 to get through this star. So as you can see, I only have to go through those 2 planets, and I'm already at Pee-wee Piranha. So just like in Sky Station 1, this fight is the exact same thing. I'm just going to try to ground pound Pee-wee shell once, instead of spinning at it 2 or 3 times. So there's actually a soft lock that can happen on this fight if you shoot Pee-wee with star bits right before it transitions to a cutscene. The cutscene will just never start. And Pee-wee will be, you can't interact with Pee-wee in any way. If it happens on this star, you can just leave the level or let the time run out. But if it were to happen on Sky Station 1, you'd actually have to restart the run. So thankfully that doesn't happen either time. I usually play it rather safe to avoid that soft lock, but it can happen if you're not careful. That was a really good level though. So next up is Yoshi Star's Comet, which funnily enough doesn't have Yoshi anywhere in it at all. So this is the first of 4 Romp Comets we're going to be collecting in the run. So Romp Comets are new to Galaxy 2. Basically you have to kill a bunch of enemies and they're in a time limit. And usually there's some kind of gimmick. In this star it's going to be the Rainbow Power-Up, which makes Mario invincible, and also you run really, really fast if you stay on the ground for long enough. And in this star, it's really difficult to maintain that running speed for as long as possible, because there's a lot of walls you can bump into. So this star is going to be all about trying to maximize the amount of time I'm at that running speed. Another thing that's really frustrating about this star in particular is that that platform's not moving when they're off-camera thing applies to the enemies. So if a Spiny dies but then goes off-camera, the counter won't update until the Spiny actually dies on camera. So you have to be really observant of that. So I kind of lingered there a little bit to make sure that Spiny died. But yeah, there have been many, many instances where runners get to the end and they just have 29 out of 30 Spinies, and it's unknown what happened to the last one, so you just have to turn your camera around a few times until you get that last one on screen, and then it dies, and then everything is good. So now we have one more star before we can move on to the end of World 3, and that's going to be this Hungry Luma Galaxy. So, Flip Swap has a somewhat similar gimmick to Beat Block, where you have these red and blue platforms, and it will change between the yellow ones, the red ones, and the blue ones being active every time you spin. So obviously, casually, you need to keep in mind what you're doing before you do a spin. But we can actually abuse how the platforms kind of flip upwards when they switch. To gain, because again, when you jump off a platform that's moving up, your jump gains more height, and these upwards moving platforms can give you a lot of height and distance to your jumps. So I'm going to be going for a bunch of these super jumps all throughout this level, but they can be really tricky, and if you mess them up, it's easy to die, especially these first couple ones. And they don't save that much time. The star's still pretty fast without them, but they also look really cool. So this first one's probably one of the hardest ones, but it saves a lot of time, so I'm definitely going to go for it. Messed it up. There we go. And see, I just gained a ton of height and distance. I'm going to go for another one here. This one's also pretty tricky. And I got it. Nice. So the rest of them aren't that difficult. I meant to spin before doing that long jump, because you can actually cancel a long jump with you can actually cancel a spin with a long jump or a single jump, like that. I'm actually going to do that right here to get this platform to flip up and do a mini super jump. Right. I didn't time that long jump properly, so I didn't get the super jump. But luckily, when you get zapped, you get to spend it in midair for a little bit, and you're able to do a spin to save yourself. So that's pretty helpful. So now we're going to be coming up on one of the hardest mid-game levels of the run for sure. If you thought the infinite flutters I've done in this run so far were crazy, this is probably the craziest set of infinite flutters in this entire run. And probably even in the entire game. So we're coming up on Bowser Jr.'s Fearsome Fleet next. And this level is normally a bunch of auto-scrollers and involves shooting a bunch of bullet bills at glass cages to unlock sections of the level. But you get Yoshi right at the start and the level's basically all one height, so you can just kind of infinite flutter from beginning to end. And I'm going to be going for the hardest variation of this level. And I'm going to go for this until I get it because it just looks super cool. This is called the question block flutter, so it's 3 different flutters I have to do here. The first is getting from the Yoshi egg to an asteroid that has collision conveniently. And then I go from the asteroid straight to a question block that's in the middle of nowhere where the airships normally are. And then I have to get a precise angle and infinite flutter from the question block through a common metal and underneath a glass structure. And then dismount off of Yoshi to get to the end of the level. It sounds like a lot to take in, and it is. And if I mess this up at all, there are no checkpoints in this track, so I go all the way back to the beginning. Right. That first flutter isn't too bad. These next 2 are kind of the hard ones. This one is easy to get a bad angle, and I kind of did. So I'm going to have to flutter slowly here. I just kind of hit the 10-second limit, so now I have to flutter slowly through this question block. So that's going to lose a little bit of time. I didn't have the greatest angle when starting out, but this is the tricky flutter. Alright, first try. Nice. That is a much harder flutter than I just made it look. I actually got the angle relatively quickly, so unfortunately I lost a little bit of time on the second flutter, but that was still really good. There's only a couple angles that will actually work for that flutter, because not everything's lined up perfectly. And also you have to go really low to go underneath that structure, and then rise up quickly enough to dismount onto the platform. That only saves a few seconds over the alternate strat of that level, but it looks very awesome, and I'm happy I got that first try. And now I have to fight Mega Hammer, which is another terrible pointer-based boss. I'm going to get back on Yoshi. I'm going to back up a little bit here. And I'm going to try to get an early hit here. Alright. So I actually don't want to get an early hit here because I want to try to cancel one of Mega Hammer's attacks. I'm going to wait here. When he's shaking his hammers there, he was getting ready to smash them together. So that would have wasted a little bit of time. And here I'm going to lure 3 bullet bills. And I'm going to use 2 of them to get to the background spot. And I'm going to try to see if I can get this third one to score through the cutscene. Sometimes it doesn't. But if it does, it's fast. So Mega Hammer's supposed to lower its head here so that you can hit it with bullet bills, but the hitbox still exists, and a side flip and a full flutter is enough to get it with the bullet bills. Which saves quite a bit of time. You also need quite a bit of height for that. You need to do it really quickly or else it'll lower his head. And this is the only Grand Star in the game that Yoshi can be in, and so pretty decent level all around. Again, that flutter is one of the most costly flutters to miss, and it's super difficult. And it's really scary too, especially in a reset list. So I put a lot of time and effort into practicing that. And that's it for World 3. Not too bad of a World 3 segment, just a few minor mishaps here and there. Another kind of routing change I made, we used to do the World 1 backtracking stars before doing Multiplane Comment. We switched that order up because by doing Flip Swap as my last star before World 3, Flip Swap's comment will spawn after I get Fearsome Fleet's Grand Star. But because this is again overlapping with the Grand Star cutscene, I skip the comment spawn cutscene, which saves another 5 seconds. So again, routing convenience. So now we're heading off into World 4. This is probably the most punishing world segment, in my opinion, because there's a lot of really difficult strats in here, and most mistakes in this world are very, very costly. So first off, we're going to be going to Sweet Mystery. You could go to Supermassive, but thankfully there's that little fork in the road that allows us to actually do Sweet Mystery instead, because Supermassive has been routed out of any percent entirely, thankfully. Because that galaxy is not very exciting, at least in my opinion. Sweet Mystery is also just a better level anyways. So, you remember how the last star was a bunch of infinite flutters? This level is more or less the same. You basically just get on Yoshi right at the start and just do a bunch of infinite flutters. This level isn't nearly as complicated though. This is also another level with the full berry, as you can see, so that's going to be important. This star kind of speaks for itself in terms of what the infinite flutters accomplish. You're basically just crossing large distances faster than you would normally by just platforming across them. This first flutter is a little tricky because I'm going to be going for a blind angle here. And the angle can be pretty tough to figure out. That shake I'm doing at the start of each flutter, by the way, just gives me a little bit of acceleration. Right, got that flutter to go all the way to the middle, which is nice. So again, I'm just flying over the stage that you normally have to platform through. This is actually a pretty cool little sequence break here. I'm actually going to skip changing all those flip switches to get a launch star to appear by just fluttering over here. This flutter is actually kind of scary because if you fall during that flutter, you don't die. You instead land on an invisible floor. And it can take about 20 seconds to find a ledge to fall off of, which can be very, very punishing. But fortunately, I didn't fall there. And that star went really, really well. So I'm going to be kind of going back and forth between Sweet Mystery and Flipsville for the first part of World 4. So next up is Flipsville. So Flipsville is a pretty good galaxy for speedrunning. All 3 of the stars here have some really cool strats you can do. Flipsville 1 is kind of a fan favorite because it has some really cool skips you can do. This entire star is pretty broken. You can just skip entire planets, and there's a couple of really neat gravity exploits I'm going to do on this star. So the star here, I'm going to have to wait for this guy to get out of my way. And I'm going to wall jump onto this wall here. And then I'm going to make my way over to the Comet Medal. This is not how you're supposed to get here, right? I'm just going to wall jump off here. And the gravity field at this plane is just going to take me in. And that actually unloads a kill plane, so I can get on top of this roof. And then I can backflip, slide off this roof, and gain a little bit of backwards momentum. And if I did that properly, which I hope I did, I can spin and go all the way into the boss planet's gravity field and skip pretty much the entire level. That was pretty good, and that saves quite a bit of time. This is a very long level normally. So here's Blandos, where this boss is easy. Basically, you just kind of ground pound it over and over again. The entire boss is vulnerable, so you can just camp out underneath its chin, and then once its iframes run out, you just ground pound it away. And it's really fun to ground pound on panels over and over again. So yeah, very fun level to watch. So, another thing I didn't explain about comets is not only do you need to have all the main stars from a galaxy collected before a comet can spawn, but you have to have at least one star in between from another galaxy. And I'm going to be calling those buffer stars. So, the buffer star for Sweet Mysteries Comet is Flipsville 1 and 2, and for Flipsville's Comet, it's actually going to be Sweet Mysteries Comet. And this is going to be the first of 3 letters from a mysterious figure, Rosalina, who is going to give us 50 star bits to the Luma, not to Mario. So we're just kind of taking them from the Luma as logic. But that's going to account for the extra 150 star bits I'm going to need for this run. So Flipsville 2, not really as interesting of a star as Flipsville 1, but there's still some interesting tech you can do here. Like, for these first 2 planets, you're supposed to use the spin drill. I'm actually going to skip it on both planets, and Nintendo just didn't even try when making this level. It's actually pretty hilarious how easy these skips are. So instead of drilling here, I'm just going to jump around the side of this wall and go straight to the long star. That was my fault. I had a bad angle. I'm supposed to bounce off that enemy. That's a really fast death, though, so that doesn't matter too much. I'm just gonna do that. Make it there. He dies. And here you can wall jump on the structure for absolutely no reason, which is fine. There we go. Alright, I have to make a fast cycle here. Alright. Good. Alright, perfect. That first part is the hardest part of this entire room. And you basically have to do that movement perfectly to get the fast cycle here. But after that, it's not too bad. This is kind of like half auto-scroller, half cycle based. This room is a lot more annoying on the Comet. But we'll get to that, That was a perfect Silver Star room. So that death was kind of unfortunate, but it was a very, very fast death, so I'm not too upset about it. Sometimes when you drill there, you can grab the star automatically, and sometimes you have to wait for the gravity to shift you into it, and I have no idea why. It's pretty random. So next up, we're going to be doing Sweet Mysteries Comet. This is another This is a star that seems easy, but it's kind of a devil in disguise. This is one of the few stars where I'm going to have Yoshi, but I'm not going to need to do any infinite flutters unless I fall off and I need to save myself. The problem with this star is you need every purple coin in this level, and Yoshi walks really, really fast. So optimally, you want to stay on the ground as much as possible, but that also makes collecting the purple coins without missing any or without stopping very, very difficult. So this star requires intense focus.
Yes.
Also, whenever I jump, I'm going to be kind of double tapping A to do a short flutter, so that again I don't have to be in the air for as long, so I can spend as much time on the ground as possible. That's kind of bad, but it's not a huge deal. Alright, back it up nicely. So you have to be very quick on your feet here, because sometimes you might have to bail and grab an extra Bolt Berry. I have to do a little bit of a turnaround there. This star takes a lot of practice to get down. I've never really managed to grab that purple coin early, but if you could save a little bit of time by waiting. That was still pretty good. Other than that one missed purple coin, that wasn't too bad. You really just want to minimize mistakes in that star as much as possible. But this next star is arguably even worse than that star, if you can believe it. So, in this next star, I'm going to be collecting 100 coins in that giant gravity switching room from Blissville 2. And when you drill with the spin drill, your hitbox becomes a lot bigger, so you can grab purple coins from quite a distance away from you. And I'm going to be trying to abuse that heavily in this star. This is a very cycle-based star as well. And I'm going to be going for a route that was found by How To Cantaloupe. That's around a year and a half old. This is a very, very tight strat to do. You have very, very little time to get this. And the first half of this room is probably the harder part of the star, so I'm going to try to focus for this first half here. And if you make any mistakes, you lose a lot of time. This side flip is tricky. This is the last tricky part. So from here on out, things should be smooth sailing. So I just have to wait here. I don't quite understand how those instant turnarounds work, but it can be a little bit faster in situations like that. That was a perfectly executed star, by the way. Again, if you mess anything in that star up, you can just lose a ton of time. And if you don't back it up properly, it just snowballs and gets even worse. Like, the current world record, which as you can see on my splits, is 3 hours and 23 seconds by Nemi. Probably loses around like 30 seconds just from not backing up stuff properly on that star. So that star can go horribly wrong, but now we're done with those two galaxies, thank goodness. And we can go do some more back and forth action with two other galaxies. So first off, we have Chunkworks Galaxy. So this star is kind of just filled with a bunch of auto-scrollers and whatnot, but there's a few interesting sections to this level. I like to think this star has more to it than meets the eye. So to start here, you're not supposed to run up this slope, but if you run up the very edge of it, you're not affected by the slope's physics, which can make getting up there a lot faster. So now I hit that lever, now I have to get this comet medal and then make it over to a platform to lower it before the chain chomps get there. I made it. I'm going to shoot this actually with a starbit so that its coin doesn't get in the way of my launch star travel. And I'm going to launch over to that launch star so I can prevent a landing spell on the next planet. So there's a lot to take in on that first planet. On this planet, this is a strat that we didn't used to think was possible. I'm going to barely touch the left edge of the seesaw, and then head over here and hit the switch, and it's going to be lower just enough for this chain chomp to make it on. We used to think that you had to let that first chain chomp die and then catch the second one, but it is possible to catch the first one, and it saves a lot of time. It is somewhat precise though, you kind of have to jump off at the right time. Unfortunately, this planet, you can't really make it to this chomp in time, so you have to wait for the second one. Unless you use 2P to hold that chomp in place, but again, I'm just using 1P. So yeah, this part's just kind of a really big auto-scroller, and there isn't much to say about it. So in most charity events, this is a good time for donations. You really just have to make sure your chomp doesn't break, or else you just spend time to make a new one. Just gonna get some cool attack ups off the switch because I need something to pass the time. See if I can get a big one here. I backflipped a little too early. If you backflip off that switch right as it's rising up, you get a ton of upward momentum. But it's very precise timing. That was a good level. It's easy to have stuff go wrong in that level as well. It's really satisfying to pull that level off properly. Again, it's a much more complicated level than you would think. But now that that's done, we get to revisit everybody's favorite power-up from Galaxy 1, aka the Spring Mushroom. Fortunately, we can skip it for most of TrompWorks 2, because again, Nintendo is very good at making games. On the first 2 planets, we can skip it at least. On the last planet, you can complete it without the Spring Mushroom, but it's slower. A very important thing to note about this level is that there are moving platforms on the final planet that are visible from the first planet. So if I either don't get the jump cancel or don't have really good movement on the first planet, I'm going to miss out on a fast cycle that saves about 5 seconds. Okay, so I didn't get the jump cancel, so I need to have really good movement now. That was kinda fast. I should be able to make it, and we'll see. So there are some planets where you're not able to enter first-person mode, but if you enter first-person mode on the first frame, you can still get a landing cancel. That's one of those planets, but unfortunately. And for some reason, if you spin with a nunchuck, you can spin sooner after a wall jump, which is useful there. So we're coming up on this last planet here. Let's see if I can make the fast cycle. Again, it doesn't lose too much time if you make it, and it is hard to both get the cycle and stay on it. So, this might be good. Alright. I gotta make this. Alright, I made it. Nice. That's very, very tight. The cycles don't move when you're on the second planet, by the way, so I don't have to worry about that. That was very, very solid. So we're going to be done with TrompWorks for a little bit. And now we're going to be heading on to Starshine Beach, which is one of the few open world galaxies in this game. Everything just kind of takes place on one gigantic planet. And you can kind of do stuff in whatever order you want, especially for this first star. Because your silver stars just kind of spread all about. This level also tried to pay homage to Super Mario Sunshine, and it kind of succeeded, but not really. This is a pretty challenging level, but it's also a pretty fun level if you can get everything in it properly. And also, unlike Super Mario Sunshine, Yoshi doesn't die when he touches water, which is useful. Alright. So I just gotta get to the first planet here. So I'm gonna bounce on this crabber up ahead to stun it for a little bit, so that I can eat it later once I get on Yoshi. And then I'm gonna infinite flutter up to this first silver star. I'm going to walk right up to this glass and then fire the crabber side right to the glass. And I have to infinite flutter from here straight to the tower. This infinite flutter is kind of tricky because the perspective is not the greatest. So I had to actually start my flutter a little bit backwards there so that I would right distance away, otherwise you're too far forward and you have to... okay, I don't know what just happened there, but... I meant to do a shake there, but I kept getting like... for some reason. Really weird. Now I get the dash cover here for a little bit. And this ending strat right here is pretty cool. Got it, nice. That dismount is very, very hard. You have to have a really, really good lineup for it. But yeah, that's basically like what you saw in Hightail Falls 1, where if you dismount off a steep slope with Dash Yoshi, you can just fling yourself right into that last silver star and it saves a bit of time. That's one of the few combat medals that's pretty out of the way, but it nets you one of the fastest stars in the run, so definitely worth getting. Anyway, we can just infinite fire to the star. That wasn't too bad of a level, other than the weirdness of trying to get off the tower. I don't quite understand what happened there. That's a very, very challenging level to get everything in, so I'm happy it went as well as it did. So, up next, Starshine Beach 2 is a very, very roundabout star casually. You have to go all around the level and do a bunch of stuff, just so you can get the Cloud Flower over to the tower, and then use the clouds to climb up. But it's a very long and roundabout process, and no one wants to do that. So our good friends from Piana 5, the Chucksters, are going to make a comeback in this star. And using one of the Chucksters that's right next to the tower, you can get just enough height to land on the topmost cloud. And then, similar to like in Honey Bloom 1, you have a few frames to jump off the cloud without the cloud fire. And you can use that to get on top of the tower and skip the whole level. So I have to kind of make my way over there just by launching something. And on the way there, I'm going to turn the camera so I can get the clouds off screen for a little bit and manipulate the cycles so I can be there a little bit early. Go. You have to time this at just the right time. And then you have to spin at the right time. Okay, I thought I turned around before jumping, so I didn't think I'd get a whole lot of momentum, but that still worked. Since I was facing forwards, I didn't have the same amount of momentum I thought I would have. Normally I'd jump off that while facing backwards. I got pretty lucky there. And if you're too low on there, you just can't make it up, and then you lose a lot of time. That's actually the only power-up you're ever able to use on Starship Mario. Which kind of makes sense, I guess. Most of the other power-ups you can't really do anything with on Starship Mario. So, the last star before we finish off World 4 is going to be Chompworks Comet. This is the last planet of Chompworks 1, but with Cosmophones. This star is basically an auto-scroller, but you have to make sure your Chomp doesn't break and that you don't screw up, otherwise you're losing a ton of time. This is a star that you can get a frame-perfect IL time on, though. Of 51.20 seconds. Which I'm not going to get in this run because it's pretty difficult to do RTA. You have to make sure you break the Chomp at just the right time. And you have to be like right above the star when you collect it. Yeah, speed, you gotta be really careful with the star so that you don't lose too much time. Like right here, I'm gonna wall so that I keep the Cosmophones off my back for as much as possible. Because again, if you break your Chomp here, you lose a ton of time. The Cosmophones make backtracking very difficult. Alright, that should be safe. That was really... I kind of played it a little bit safer because I didn't want to get hit again. Alright, made it through. So now all that's left to do is the boss level of World 4, and we'll be done with the World 4 segment. So Bowser's Gravity Gauntlet, which is the boss level of World 4, and yeah, I didn't get the frame rate dial time, obviously. This is a pretty interesting level because I'm actually going to be doing both the normal star and the comet, and you're going to get to see me attempt 2 different ways at skipping this entire, basically a good majority of the level on each of the stars. So in this first star, I'm going to do a trick called Behind the Castle, which I'm sure you can guess from the name what you're doing. So this little 2D castle here, you can actually go behind it where there's lava rendered, and if you lava boost in just the right way, you can get pulled into the gravity field of the final 2D section. This is slower than the other skip, but I have to do it on this star because of the comet medal, and it's the comet medal right next to where you do the skip. And I'm going to need the life puncher for this again because you need all the help you can get. And this is a very challenging skip. It's a lot harder than it looks. So I gotta get here to get the comet medal, and now here goes nothing. That should work. Okay, I got it. 5 bounces not great, but I'll take it. You can make it with 4 bounces, but I just got the skip. So yeah, you need to be a very specific way. You need to be a specific distance away from the castle in order for that skip to actually work. If you're too close, you get kind of stuck in this weird falling state, and you just stay there until you die. And if you're too far away, you just fall on the edge. And dying to that skip is just like half the time. So I'm very happy I got that. I was a little worried that I was the wrong distance away, but it still worked, which is nice. And now the rest of this stage plays out kind of similarly to the first Bowser stage, Bowser's Lava Lair. This Bowser fight is a bit more tricky than the fight from Lava Lair. The main difference being Bowser, in this fight and this fight only, Bowser will drop 2 meteors instead of 3. Which means that it's a lot easier for Bowser to punch out both of the meteors and effectively prevent you from completing the cycle. And again, that wastes time. There's also going to be shockwaves coming out of both his meteors and the punches, but those are usually not too difficult to avoid. So at the start here, he's going to punch twice for some reason, and it's super hard to avoid. Yeah, it's very difficult. But now I'm going to be going for a punch cancel, so once Bowser summons these 2 meteors and then punches, I'm actually going to be waiting for him to charge up another punching attack before hitting the meteor into him, so I can cancel that attack. That should work. Alright, it saves a few seconds. It's not a huge time save, but it can save a little bit of time if you do it. And now it's just all about, I don't have to do that anymore. The rest of this fight is all about just making sure I get the hits quickly. And not missing any cycles. Something I can probably point out here is that with each fight, it seems like the hitbox of Bowser's shell grows. And his shell can actually deflect the meteors, which makes it impossible to hit him. So you have to be really, really cautious when aiming the meteors. Again, it might be a lot more prominent on the last fight, because his hitbox seems to be a lot bigger on the fight. Okay. Don't know if Bowser's in a good position. If you don't think Bowser's going to be in a good position to where he's not going to punch out the meteors, it's better to just lure him out of the way so that you can play it safe. Because I have had him punch out both meteors more times than I care to admit. But that's going to be it for World 4. That was not too bad of a World 4 overall, just a few minor time losses, with the biggest one probably being that death on Flip Flow 2, and even that wasn't too significant. I managed to get all the major tricks without too many issues. So considering that we just finished World 4, naturally the next world we would go to is World 2, because that's totally not how numbers work. Actually, I'm going to be backtracking to Worlds 2 and 1 to get a combination of stars that I couldn't get earlier, and stars that I could have gotten earlier, but for routing convenience, it's better to get them now. And again, because I have 22 Comet medals, Lava Layers Comet is supposed to spawn after this start, but because of this cutscene, it's just going to be skipped. It's still going to spawn, but there's going to be a lot of Comet medals I'm collecting for galaxies that either don't have comets or that have comets that I'm not going to get. And that's mainly just because they're going to add to that Comet medal total. I'm going to need to collect 32 Comet medals over the course of this run. Because the star with the highest Comet medal requirement that I need for this run is 32. So yeah, we could get stars in World 5 now, but in order to actually get to the end of World 5, we need 55 stars, so we're going to need to collect some stars from here before we can have enough. For the start, we're going to go to Boulder Bowl 1. Again, this star used to be done much earlier in the run, but again, due to routing convenience, it's much better to do it after World 4. This star has a pretty interesting gravity skip that allows me to skip a planet that's incredibly tedious because you have to kill a bunch of enemies and it takes forever and a day. You're going to be seeing two variants of the skip in this run. You can do it with and without Rock Mario. With Rock Mario, it's slightly harder, but I have to do it on this star because of the Comet medal. And if you fail to skip, you have to do everything again, including getting the medal, so it's very punishing. And whenever I have Rock Mario, you're going to be seeing me do a lot of those jump spins because that speeds you up while you're actually rolling. So here comes the gravity skip. You need to have a pretty decent lineup for this. Alright, I got it first try. Nice. Yeah, there's a couple of good visual cues for that. As long as you have a good lineup and you spin at the right time, you'll just get caught in gravity. And again, it only skips one planet, but it saves a buttload of time, so it's definitely worth doing. Now on top of that, we have a very, very finicky boss fight. This is Rollodillo, and he's a bit of a pain in the neck. This first phase isn't too hard. But on these next 3 hits, I'm going to try to get Rollodillo. I'm going to try to attack Rollodillo without him noticing me, which is going to be awkward because I'm trying to chase him while he's trying to chase me. Also doing these jump spins again to extend the distance that Mario's going to be rolling, so I can get these hits in one roll. Sometimes I can make it... Sometimes you can get that second hit without having to do a jump spin, but I kind of really got the line so I can get it. The main problem with this is that sometimes this planet's gravity can just eat your jumps for no reason. And also, if your lineup is bad, then you'll just end up in Rollodillo's line of sight, and then he'll do the rolling attack, and that wastes a ton of time. But thankfully that fight didn't go too badly. So that skip, it's a little riskier to do it later in the run now, because again, it does waste a lot of time if you die to it. But I can once again use this for a mail code letter work. We were able to do this with the older route anyways with this star. Because you get Boulder Bowl 1, you're brought down to the engine room to get Rock Mario, and these are tied to specific stars. But also, because I collected this star and Chompworks 1, I get this mail toad letter, which works me up out of there. Originally, we would use that 15-star mail toad letter to warp out of there. And that just saves a few seconds of travel time. So massive props to JDA7, Elias, Altucanoa for helping create that route, and then Pods for testing it. And again, this route saves about 15 to 20 seconds overall, which is really useful. And from here on out, the route will sync up with the old route that I used to do. So the rest of this run should look familiar somewhat. So here's Hytale Falls Comet. This is basically Hytale Falls 1, but with a timer. And Nintendo gives you way too much time to do these missions. Also, there's holes in the ground and meteors that fall, but for the most part, those don't get in the way. And the ending of this level is going to be slightly different because I don't need the Comet level since this is the Comet. Those pink guys or Smeeches, do not touch them when you're on Yoshi because they will just latch onto your tongue and you have to shake to get them off. So again, if you don't remember Hightail Falls 1, I'm just going to be trying to get this Dash Pepper's effect to last as long as possible. I did not mean to do that. So I'm going to be taking the left path here. Yeah, when you have a Sneech on your mouth, you can't eat other things, so you have to shake it off like that. And again, I'm going to grab this Dash Pepper late. And unlike Hightail Falls 1, I'm actually going to be taking this launch star. I'm going to be going for a really cool jump here to skip up to the top platform. This is a very precise jump. And I got it first try. Nice. You have to jump super late there in order to get enough height. And then you can just dismount into the star like that. But that's a lot faster if you're not going to be collecting the Comet Medal. But you have to get it within a couple of tries in order for it to be worth it, and it's a pretty tight jump. You have to jump extremely late on that wall. Now we're coming up on one of the worst stars in the run. So Boulder Bowl Comet is a very RNG heavy star. This is probably the most RNG heavy star in the run. Because we have to kill 30 crabbers on that planet that has Rollozilla on it. And their movement is pretty random. So you kind of just have to see and react. And if you run out of time on this star, you lose an entire minute. So let's not do that. And casually, most players don't know this because it's never explained anywhere in the game, but you can actually jump out of rock mode early. You saw me do it during the Rollozilla fight, but if you press Z and then A, you can jump out of rock mode early, and that makes this star a lot easier. Alright, so this isn't a horrible start so far, but this could be a little better. I'm basically wanting them to kind of group up until I reach about 24 or 25, and then I can start focusing on kind of the individual crabbers. And these blue crabbers are the worst because their movement is kind of sporadic. I did not mean to roll in that direction. That should be fine. I would like to get this blue crabber, please. Where is the last crabber? That wasn't too great, but at least I managed to make it without failing. That's really all you can ask for. Alright, and the star's right there. If you're going up against a good split on that star, you're almost guaranteed to lose time. But again, as long as you don't fail that star, that's really all you can ask for on a reset list. And here's the second of those 50 star bit letters from the Mailtoad. So we have one more star to collect from Boulder Bowl before we move on, and that's going to be the letter star that we just unlocked. I'm going to re-enter Boulder Bowl 1 for this. And I'm actually going to be doing the Boulder Bowl 1 skip without Rock Mario, because I don't need to collect the Comet Medal this time. And as you're about to see, it's quite a bit easier. The only really tricky part is this jump to the ramp here. But as you can see here, once I get here, this is super easy. You just run up the ramp, long jump to the left, spin, and you get to the ground kill. It's as easy as that. You don't even have to set it up. And now we have to deal with this Goomba. We have to lure this Goomba over to this gear mode here. It can just stop in the middle of the road for no reason, and you only get 2 Goombas on this star, and if both of them die, you have to actually restart the level. Alright, the game can just soft lock there for absolutely no reason. It's only ever happened to me once in a 242 star run, which is the 100% category for this game, which by the way is 9.5 hours. So yeah, fortunately this game autosaves, so if that ever does happen, it's never a huge deal. But it does kind of suck. It's very unfortunate when it does happen. Thankfully, that's the only one of those 2 stars you have to do, because the other one really, really sucks, and it's in Space Storm. Thankfully, we don't have to do that star in this route, because it's not fast. So there's one more star we need to get overall before we can actually go to World 5. And we get to go right back to killing creatures because we just saved one. And we get to visit our good friend Gobblegut again. So this is a Fiery Flotilla Comet. You basically just have to do the Gobblegut fight on a timer. It's basically the exact same fight. So hopefully this will just go exactly the same as it did in Fiery Flotilla 1 when I did this earlier, which was like an hour and a half ago. But this also gives you a chance to see just how bad this gives me another chance to show you just how punishing this fight can be. And again, Nintendo gives you way too much time to do this. So I'm going to be going for exactly what I went for on the first Gobblegut fight. Basically, I'm trying to attack all 6 Devillier Colgies in midair. And I don't really want anything to go wrong. Thankfully, we don't have to fight the fiery version of Gobblegut, which is even worse. Alright, good first phase. The second phase is usually the harder of the 2 phases for me. Make sure I turn around at the right time. Spin at the right time there. It's very easy to get hit by a Gobblegut space there. And 2 for 2 perfect Gobbleguts, that's very nice. So yeah, thankfully you didn't get to see just how bad that fight can be. If you make one mistake, usually it can be really, really punishing. That fight takes a lot of practice to get down. But now we're completely done with Worlds 1 and 2, so we're not going to be collecting any more stars from those 2 worlds. And we're going to be moving on to World 5. So we're not going to be collecting too many stars from World 5. But some of the stars we're collecting here are going to be pretty interesting. So first we're going to do Space Storm 1. This is another one of those stars that's actually required in order to progress in the game. There's just no alternative way to progress in World 5 without collecting this star. This is a pretty technical star. Especially the cylinder planet you see right there. There's a lot of really tricky movement you have to do here in order to catch all good platform cycles. Alright, so at the start here I have a pretty finicky launch that I'm going to have to do. Alright, just save about 5 seconds on platform cycles. Got it. Here for a little bit, and that was a good second planet. That planet's really hard. Now I gotta lure this Bob-omb over to break some glass here. And once you fall in here, you're supposed to walk all the way around, but why do that when you can just go straight to the launch pad? Now we have the final section, which is contains a bunch of pole stars. So these pole stars, this is the first time we're seeing them in this run, and pole stars in the Galaxy games are quite tricky to optimize. You have to kind of let your go before you reach the center in order to maintain momentum. And there's a lot of obstacle shapes, which makes it super difficult to it's so difficult to not do it. That wasn't too bad though. That was a pretty good level overall. Again, that star can be very tough to do optimally, so the fact that I was able to pull that off so cleanly is very satisfying. And a 115 IL time is not too bad. Optimally, you can get I can get like a 112 usually. One more star from Space Storm we need to get though, and that's going to be Space Storm 2. So this star is a star that kind of pays homage to Buoy-based Galaxy from Galaxy 1. It even has the Buoy-based music, which is a fan favorite song for sure. You're not going to get to hear too much of it though. This star is all about hitting those blue switches to slow down time, because as you can see, everything that's moving in this star is really fast. But optimally, I can make it through here without having to hit anything. This is a very tough star, but it's also really fast. So at the start of this planet here, I'm just going to jump to the left and wall jump onto this wall to skip the entire first section. Like this. Now I gotta get on top of this wall and get some upward momentum. And make it through these platforms. Okay, I'm surprised that worked. So I'm gonna go over here and do a triple jump to skip this Hotman fight. Alright, that could have gone a little bit better, but nothing major happened. I only lost a couple seconds. That star can also snowball if you let things get out of hand. Alright, now we're finally able to move on to the bulk of World 5. And once you collect Space Storm 1, a large majority of World 1 becomes unlocked, so we can just kind of get whatever we want here now. So first we're going to go to Shiverburn. So we're going to start with the Shiverburn Secret Star, which is another Chimp challenge, and it's going to be that same skating minigame we saw back in Freezy Play. So this is actually the exact same minigame. You can get the exact same patterns. The only difference is now you need 600 points to win instead of 500, so yeah, it's much harder. It's actually kind of a notoriously challenging start to do casually. That's the actual point advantage. I'm going to skip this giant seed here by just using these clouds. Using clouds with two jumps here. If you don't land right on that pipe, it's very difficult to actually land in the pipe, because if you bounce in the lava, it's really hard to control Mario. So again, this would be another place where you could guess score if you were in the chat, but this time the minimum required is 600. And I got the same RNG both times as well. Again, I'm skating backwards. If you just tap Z while you're skating backwards, you can just... If you tap Z while you're skating, you just start skating backwards. Again, it's completely useless, but it works cool. Yeah, I should be able to easily make the score here. Really, as long as you make the score, it doesn't matter too much what the end result is. Wow, I got the exact same score both ends. That's pretty epic. So yeah, that's a pretty straightforward star as well. It's also just it can be a nice, if you're good at the skating mini games, it can be a nice little breather. Up next is Shiverburn 1, which is another pretty long-winded star and has a lot going for it. There's a lot of pretty neat tricks in this level and a lot of cool strats you get to do. This is kind of one of my favorite stars just because of the amount of tech you get to utilize here. So at the start of this star, there's a gravity skip I'm going to do where I'm going to use clouds to skip from the beginning of this planet to the end of the second planet, because the second planet is right behind where you start. I'm going to do this much more complicated strat. You have to make your clouds at very specific times and have really good long runs. You have to be pretty low so that you land on the back half of this planet. I got the skip, nice. Now I have to detour a little bit in front of the star here to get the middle. And I'm going to ditch Cloud Mario because I want to get rid of the floaty effect for this next section. So this ice section here, I'm going to turn the camera to manipulate the timing of the icicles that are going to fall in a little bit. And instead of shooting coconuts back at these guys to make a bridge here, I'm just going to lob them past them. That saved a lot of time as well. That was a pretty good stage. And now it's time for the boss, Principal Pompey. So there's actually a couple different ways you can go about fighting this guy. I'm going to fight him using the no RNG strats, which are a little bit slower and don't look as cool. So I'm going to intentionally miss that first coconut. I'm going to try to hit the second one right. Okay, that was a little sketchy, but I got it. because that'll manipulate him to never be on that side of the battlefield during the second or third hits. Because he'll do this upwards firing attack that you can use to make the fight go by a little bit faster, but it's very RNG dependent. I'm not very good at that strat, so I don't bother with it. And this strat is only a few seconds slower, so it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't look as cool though, admittedly. But it is pretty easy to get down consistently. Yeah, Shiverburn won. Again, there's a lot going to that star, but it's a pretty cool star overall. So we'll be coming back to Shiverburn in a little bit, but we're going to be getting some stars from a couple other galaxies before moving on. And here's the last star bit, Mailtail Rider, that we're going to be getting. So now we have all the star bits we need for the run, hopefully. So next up is Upside Dizzy. This is kind of the sequel level to Right Side Down from earlier, except this level is even more confusing. So this Upside Dizzy 1 is a very, very cycle-based star. Not only are there a bunch of cycles that you have to work on in the first section, but this hallway that you see right there, probably the most confusing hallway in the entire game. And probably even in video game history. So there's some pretty cool movement I'm going to try to get in this star, but it's very complicated to pull off. And that doesn't lose too much time because cycles. So I'm going to launch them into this gravity zone, which will shoot me up super high here. And here I'm going to go for a cool Naguma bounce to skip having to hit a switch here. And I got it, nice. That saves a couple seconds. So here I am not in control of when the gravity changes. So I have to be really quick on my feet here. And if you don't have a consistent strat for getting through here, you're just going to stumble over here. That wasn't too bad. That was a pretty solid star overall, just a couple of minor mishaps here and there. That star is another star that just takes a lot of practice to get down, because otherwise, again, you're just going to fumble through it and lose so much time. One more star we have to collect from there, though, and that's going to be the Upside Dizzy Secret Star, which, just like Right Side Down, is another one of those box-burning mini-games. This one is kind of harder for casuals, but because it's a lot more boxes, but in speedrunning it's a little bit easier to do optimally, as the boxes are slightly more tightly packed together. Getting to this secret has some cool movement, though. We have a cool little boom bounce. I'm going to go for try to get into this fight. I got it, nice. Alright, this room is very annoying. I could have, if I got enough height there, you can actually make it into that pipe with that fireball spamming, but I didn't trust how much height I had, so I just decided to bail. That triple jump's really finicky. So now here we have the box burning minigame. So there's less awkward angles you have to throw these at here. I'm just going to kind of tackle one side and tackle the next. One thing to point out is that the fireballs don't actually come out of Mario's center, they come out of his right hand. So sometimes, even if you think you aimed it properly, you might have been just a little too far to the left. Or too far to the right, I don't actually know. And a 9 is optimal, by the way, so that was still really good. And that's going to be it for Upside Dizzy. Well, stars didn't go too badly. I'm pretty happy about that. So this is going to be the last time I'm brought down to the engine room, thank goodness. Because I'm kind of tired of being brought down here and there's literally no reason for this room to exist, so goodbye. And last time I had to do this move as well. So now we're going to be going to the second spoopy level of the run. This is going to be Boo Moon. This galaxy is kind of interesting. Not really. It really depends on what part of the level you look at. So this first star I'm going to be doing Boo Moon Secret is kind of just a bunch of snake block auto-scrollers. But there's some interesting things about this star. So on this first planet, it's actually only faster to long jump at the beginning and the end. If you try long jumping anywhere else, you lose time. Alright, that's a frame perfect camera cancel, by the way. That's one of those camera cancels that you have to hit on the first possible frame. Otherwise you can't do it. Yeah, you can just kind of long jump ahead of some of these snake blocks. Some of the long jumps are a little tight though. So now here I just kind of have to wait on this snake block for a little bit. There's not a whole lot going there, you just gotta make sure you don't die. And there's a comet medal on the way, so I might as well grab it. I'm gonna long jump past this launch star, and instead of riding the snake block all the way, I'm just gonna long jump over to the star and grab it like that. That's a not too complicated of a skip. I would actually recommend doing that skip if you're just doing that level casually, because those Octoboos are really terrible, and the snake block moves really fast, so it's really easy to just get thrown off and die, and that skip isn't too hard. As long as you jump it the right way. Alright, next up is going to be Boo Moon 1. So Boo Moon 1 is another star that for a few years wasn't in any percent, but in like late 2015 or so, Nemi, again, who is the current world record holder for this game, found a skip on Boo Moon 1 that makes it faster than Supermassive Secret Star. So that routed out that star, and now we've routed out Supermassive entirely, which is nice. This is also just a slightly easier level to do without fast strats in general, so I would recommend doing this even if you're just starting out. So I kind of have to wait through here again. I couldn't do the skip on Boo Moon Secret, by the way, because I have to wait for the snake blocks, partly because of the comet medal. I'm going to be taking advantage of how the gravity changes when that wall that makes you walk sideways pops up. I'm going to activate the wall and then head back over here, and then I'm going to end up standing on the side of the snake box after waiting a little bit. I'm going to long jump off, spin, and then enter the whole strike. Yeah, that skip is pretty cool looking. It's kind of weird because your controls on the side of that snake block are weird because of the different gravity field. And then this last part is just collecting a bunch of silver stars. It's nothing too special. I'm going to try to do this all on one cycle. That was really solid. Yeah, huge shout-outs to Nemi while I'm here, because he's helped push this game a lot. He actually has been kind of on-off coming back to running this game over the span of 2019. He improved Valu's 3:01:57 world record, which at the time was like 3 years old or something, by over a minute and a half, and is very, very, and could easily get set free if he ever decides to run this game again. I am currently second place with a 3:01:51, by the way, which is a really solid run for me. So yeah, this male-tailed letter kind of makes that star a little bit slower than it could be, but it's still worth it with that if you do that skip. And the last star we need to get before finishing off World 5 is Shiverbird's Comet. So this is the third rock comet of the run. And this is going to be another star where we use the rainbow power-up, just like in Yoshi Star, except this time it's with the Octoombas and not with the Spinies. So you're probably wondering if skating or running is faster. It's actually neither. but it's easier to turn while running. So I'm going to build momentum up by speeding, and then once I've built momentum up, I'm just going to start running. And if I do this right, I should be able to get all 30 of these Octoombas on just this freaking star. And it'll look really cool. That was perfect. Yeah, there's as you can see, it doesn't lose too much time to go out of your way to grab an extra Rainbow Star or two if you need it. But yeah, it's better to try to do it without. And now we're coming up on Bowser Jr.'s Boom Bunker, which is probably one of my least favorite levels in this entire run. So you probably noticed that up until this point, there hasn't really been any like major motion control-based shenanigans in this run. That's not really going to change, with the exception of this level. So in this level, we have to deal with the cannons, and these are pointer-based. Not only that, but the two cannon shots you have to make in this level are super precise. You have very small targets to aim at, and if you miss them, it almost always ends in death. So, and also, it's really terrible that they're pointer-based, because when you press A, your hand moves slightly, and then you're off by a small amount, and you die. This first cannon shot is more difficult than the second one, I would say. You have a much smaller target to aim at, and it's more punishing if you kill it. First, you have to lure this bullet bill to break some glass here. Now I think this cannon shot is Boomerang Bro's face. Take my time to do it. That might be too high. Alright, perfect. If you're too high, you can still kill the Boomerang Bro, but you won't land, and you'll just go flying to your oblivion. And if you're too low, it's possible to get hit and just fall off the stage and die. So I'm happy I got that. Alright, this cannon shot's a little more forgiving, but you still have to be pretty quick with it. You have a kind of small window to aim it. And now you're supposed to use Clouds to get to the end of the next section, but no. I spun a little too early there. That's not a huge time loss. It's only going to be around like maybe 20 seconds or so. Because I'm right here. I'll go for that again, because I just spun a little too early. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't actually save that much time, but it looks cool, so I like doing it. That's kind of unfortunate, but whatever. Again, it's not a huge time loss compared to dying to the other cannon shot. So here's Boomsday. This fight, it either goes well for you or it goes well for Bowser Jr. There really isn't any in between. So these first two hits aren't too complicated. You just kind of have to climb up with clouds. On the second hit, he's going to try to suck the clouds in, so I'm going to wait a little bit before I actually start hitting the clouds and actually watch out for the yellow energy shield. This final hit, you have to be super quick on your feet, or else you're going to lose a lot of time. Unfortunately, I have a pretty consistent strat to get through there. That was really nice. And F's in chat for Bowser Jr. Alright, so that's it for World 5. That death, again, unfortunate. It cost me about, I'd say, 25 seconds, but again, it's not a huge deal for a reset list. I still got the strat second try. So now we're coming in kind of on the home stretch here. We're coming up on World 6. This is probably, in my opinion, the hardest world in the run. It's the longest world. It's about 40 minutes, give or take. So yeah, there's still quite a bit left in this run, and there are a lot of really punishing stars in World 6, with a lot of really challenging tricks. And when you're at the end of a run, you're very, very nervous. Especially if you're on really, really good pace. This run isn't actually on too bad of a pace. This run's actually been pretty solid for a resetless. But hopefully it can stay that way, because again, World 6 is filled with really difficult tricks. So to start off, we're going to go to Melty Monster, because we don't really have a choice. So we're going to be collecting all 3 stars from Melty Monster in one go. This is the only galaxy where we're actually going to do that in this run. And this galaxy is not free. There's a lot of really challenging small things you have to do in these levels if you want to go fast. So this first star, there are tornado cycles on that second planet that are moving from the moment I enter the level. So I have to be really fast in this first section in order to make the optimal tornado cycle. And I have to deal with full stars, which aren't the easiest thing to go through. That wasn't too great, but it should still be fast enough if this next section goes really well. I kind of held on to one full star for a little too long. Okay, I really wanted to grab that checkpoint. I just have to make sure I don't die now. If I do miss the tornado cycle, though, I can grab a checkpoint from safety, though, so... Looks like I'm doing it, though. Alright, and that'll allow me to skip that second tornado there. And I can skip this other tornado as well. I have to be really careful here and not die. I don't want to go back to the beginning of the level. So here, I'm going to do this cool long jump to try and start off. I might have mistimed that. Oh wow, I actually got that. Nice. That long jump is pretty cool looking. It allows you to skip those first few planets. This section is terrible because every single planet here has its own gravity field. So movement here can be really tricky. Okay, I don't know why that happened. I'll get this guy to get out of the way. For some reason, if you hit this crystal on the left side, it's easier than if you hit it on the right. That was a slightly off level, but at least I didn't die and nothing too significant happened. Again, that's a very challenging level to get through without any major mistakes. So, that's the only star in this level that really has lava in it. The last 2 stars are all based around Rock Mario. But first we have to wait for lava to shut up, because, again, I don't want to do it. So, the next star, Melty Monster 2, kind of sort of an auto-scroller, but not really. You're basically rolling around with Rock Mario for the entire star, and once you take a ramp with Rock Mario, you actually can't stop. So you kind of just have to keep rolling along. This is a star that's really good for farming star bits. If you need star bits to fill out your Bank Toad. Most people just use an SD card on their Wii to replenish their Bank Toad file, but if you don't have that, this is a good level to farm star bits in. So there's nothing too significant in this level until the very end, where I'm going to go for a strat called Zigzag Skip, where at the very end there's a couple of fences you're supposed to bounce off of in a zigzag pattern, but you can actually just roll across the very tiny gaps in the center. It saves about 3 seconds if you make it, but it requires pretty precise positioning and timing. And if you fail it, you die and lose about 45 seconds. I'll go for it once for this run, just because it's a resetless run meant to showcase the game and have it really cool. And it does save time if you don't love it. And again, whenever I jump with Rock Mario, I'm going to be doing spins to speed myself up by a little bit. Alright, I got the skip, nice. And I was able to roll into the star quickly. That was a really good level. Yeah, that skip can be difficult because it's not only difficult to get across the gaps without missing them, but it's also difficult to turn around back in time so that you can jump to the star platform. But it's taking the fences isn't that much of a safety precaution either, because sometimes they'll just launch you off in a random direction for no reason and you die. So I'm gonna go back in for the hidden star. It's actually faster to do the stars in this order instead of doing one secret two. Even though you auto select an extra time, only two stars show up on the star select menu for the third time instead of three, which saves a little bit of time. And it's faster to enter this on Multi-Monster 2 because you start closer to the pipe. So this is the chimp bowling minigame. There's 56 pins in total, and you only have to hit 50 of them. I am going to try and intentionally skip 3 pins, because I would have to wait for them otherwise. There is a strat you can do on this star that I'm not going to go for, because it's just too risky, where you can actually do a spin jump onto the ramps to deactivate the ramps, and then jump at the very end of the ramps, and then once you land on the next platform, you can continue rolling instead of stopping after every ramp like I am here. It saves a couple of seconds each time you get it, but the jumps are essentially blind, and if you miss them, you're also very likely going to die. So it's just not a strat you want to do, especially in a run like this. And it's 2.5 hours into the run. Alright, so far I haven't missed any pins, so it should be good here. I only missed one of the 53 pins I was aiming for. Yeah. It's not too hard of a minigame, but it can be kind of tight if you aren't going really straight with your lines. And that's it for Multi-Monster. So now we're finally able to move on to World 6. The bulk of it, anyways. That's also going to be the last chimp challenge in the run. The rest of the chimp challenges in this game are very long and not worth it for any percent. So we're going to take the top path for the start of this trip into World 6 here. In order to get access to Throwback Galaxy, we have to collect 1 star from this galaxy. Clockwork Ruins 1 is about 3 minutes long, again, so it's not really worth getting. And this Secret Star is also kind of long for any percent standards, but it's better than the alternative. So in this star I have to collect 30 points to feed a Hungry Luma, but I can do it all on this first section. This star is kind of a nightmare because these platforms are all cycle-based, and you have to be pretty quick on your feet in order to make the proper cycles, and there's these Arctumbas that can just ruin your day. If you die on this star, the cycles are not what you're used to, and they're not fast, so don't die here. Luckily, I have a route here that's pretty consistent. So I'm going to look ahead in first-person mode for a little bit, because that will advance the cycles of the platform after this one, which will be a bit more convenient for me when I get there. So we have this kind of pickle triple jump here. So now I only need to collect 1 point from this from this last platform, and I can get 10 points from this item box, which again is very, very convenient. Let's get this coin and then not die. Alright. So I'm basically done with the star now because this last planet's going to go by pretty fast. Normally on this planet, this is another planet where you're supposed to go around and hit a bunch of switches to slow down time. Instead of doing that, I'm just going to do a simple triple jump roll kick to skip all of it. This is kind of a finicky jump, and it's not too hard if you take time to set it up, but if you don't, it can be really difficult. Spin there for safety. That was a pretty good level. Again, that star gets stuck when you're starting out, so being able to pull it off that well consistently is very nice. And thankfully, that's the only star we have to collect from Clockwork Ruins, because again, there's no other stars from there that are fast enough. And now we can move on to a galaxy that I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy. So this is Throwback Galaxy. This galaxy is a homage to Whomp's Fortress from Super Mario 64. As you can tell. This first star is kind of a recreation of the first star of Womp's Fortress from SM64. And the common medal is actually where the shoot into the wild blue star was. So, yeah. Unfortunately, the movement in this level isn't nearly as flashy. This is going to be my best cheese impersonation here. So here I'm going to go for this little triple jump here to get up to this common metal platform. I did my jump kind of next to the wall there, which caused me to bonk on the wall. But fortunately, there's a really easy back up. So now I'm going to make my way up here. You can skip killing this Womp, but that's not going to happen. If you stand at the very edge of where the Womp's going to be when it crushes you, and then jump right when it lands on top of you, you can skip killing it, and it saves a couple seconds, but because it like clips you into the floor, but it's super precise, and if you fail it, you get crushed and die. So it's not worth it. Unless you're Nemi. So here's the Womp King. Unlike SM64, you can't glitch through him, so you have to fight this guy more or less as intended. This guy is actually kind of a tough boss fight this time around, because mainly because of these little wimple guys, they like to get in your way. Thankfully he crushed all of them though. He's also a lot bigger. I also don't have very fond memories of this guy. I have died to this boss in runs before. One time I actually died in this, I was on huge PB pace and I died twice to this boss without grabbing the checkpoint, and I lost 3 minutes in a relay race, which was very unfortunate. Also, it's worth noting that King Womp has the same text in this game as he does in SM64, but if you die and then re-enter the level, he's just like, wait, I already said that. He's like, starts to say that text, and then he's like, wait, I already said this, let's just fight already. And then the fight starts. That wasn't too bad of a level overall. I was able to get to the fight with no issues. So yeah, not only is that star obviously a cool star to show off, but it also unlocks a couple really fast stars that we can now do in throwback. This is going to be the last time the Purple Idiot brings us down to the bottom of the starship. He is going to want to annoy us one more time before the end of this run, but we have some big skips coming your way, so stay tuned. So next up is Throwback 2. This is where they pay homage to the DS version of all games, because, you know, the DS version is very well known. And they didn't really place the silver stars in red point positions like I feel like they should have. They just kind of threw them around the level and then gave you Cloud Mario. Which is fine though, because there is some pretty cool movement you can do with this star as well. This is another one of my favorite stars to do for the movement. It doesn't really matter how fast I go here, because I have to wait on this and the next platform anyways. I have to be careful when getting this silver star. If I make this cloud too late, then I actually don't get the silver star, and I have to wait for that cloud to expire. Because, yeah, you don't really want to ground pound there. That long jump there, you want to kind of veer off to the right so that you're more so over the abyss, so that you gain a little bit more momentum over there. Cloud boosting to get up to this silver star here. I'm going to make my way over to this cloud flower, and then there's one final set of things that I have to do. Alright, that was a really good level. But let's see if I lined it up so that I'll ground pound directly onto the star. Nice. Really good level. So we're going to be done with the top path for now, and we're going to be going back to the bottom path. We could continue on the top path, but the other galaxy there, Battle Belt, is terrible, and no one likes doing it, and if you're not required to do it in any percent, we don't have to. Also has Fiery Golem Gut, and no. So we're going to go to the bottom path instead, which gives us access to Flash Black, which is a pretty fast galaxy. And this is the last Hungry Luma we have to feed for the run, and we have just enough Starbits to feed it. So Flash Black is the Hungry Luma Galaxy we have here, and it has a somewhat interesting gimmick where the lights, you only get a brief glimpse of what the level looks like every few seconds, and it's cycle dependent. So you kind of have to wait a little bit. Casually, you would have to like wait for the lights to flash and then navigate based on what you see. But I played this level a bunch of times. By now, I know the layout of this level pretty much by heart. So I have a pretty easy way of navigating through here. This is also another level where there's Yoshi, but I don't really have to infinite flutter. And we get to use the blimp through here for a little bit. So we're just going to be kind of doing this little vertical climb here. Not a whole lot to say here. Just gotta make sure you don't get hit by anything. Alright, I need this next section to go in a particular way. Because I'm gonna be trying to go for a cool strat here. Alright, so I'm gonna bounce off that Jack of Luma, then dismount Yoshi to fly into that Comet Metal, and then bounce off of it again and dismount Yoshi to get momentum to get into that launch star. That's one of the coolest looking strats in the run, in my opinion. Now we have this last section, which is just collecting 5 silver stars. This yellow platform is kind of weird. It seems to be on a different cycle every single time I get here. And those flapjack enemies can sometimes be pretty difficult to navigate around when the platform's on a bad cycle. That was another really good level. And now we have kind of the biggest resident sleeper level of the run coming up. Slimy Spring. Yeah, this upcoming star, the only reason the star is in the route is because it's the only good alternative to Battle Belt. It is on average faster than doing Battle Belt, so it's worth it for the route, but just barely. We have to complete one of these top two. We have to complete one of those 2 paths to get to Galaxy Generator, so it's better to just do this star. This star is pretty much just 2 minutes of swimming underwater with the shell. This will also count for the last Comet Medal in the run I have to collect, and I am good on Comet Medals, so I haven't missed any so far. We're going to be going for another slope boost at the start here. And once we grab the shell, we're just going to be kind of swimming forward for a little while. Now this star is a very well-needed break because you get a couple minutes to just kind of relax, and then you go into an onslaught of really difficult stars. Yeah, it's a nice way to take the pressure off. Yeah, it's not. Usually in charity marathons, this is another place that's really, really good for donations, because I'm not going to have much to say here. So in this section, there is something I can do to make this a little bit faster. If I just barely touch the edges of these speedy rings here, I can avoid collecting these coins. And I can finish this level coinless, which means I won't get the text box I get for collecting coins. Unfortunately, I collected one there. It's risky to go for that anyways, because if you bonk into any of these walls while moving at this speed with the shell, you lose the shell. And that loses a lot of time. Alright, we just have... this strat at the end here requires a decent lineup for. Should be good together. I got it, nice. If you miss that shell toss, there's another shell right next to where you are, so it doesn't lose a whole lot of time if you miss that, but that looks super cool. So you can wake up now. And that'll actually be the last normal star I collect in this run. So the last 6 stars I'm going to collect before I unlock Bowser's Galaxy Generator are going to be all comets. So I'm going to be collecting 2 from World 3, 2 from World 4, and then 2 from World 6, and that'll get me to 70 stars. And then we'll move on to Bowser's Galaxy Generator and finish the game. So we're kind of in the home stretch here. So the first comet I'm going to be getting is Honey Hall's Comet. I could have done this star way earlier in the run, but due to routing nonsense, that's very complicated to explain. I need this star to be a buffer star for both B-Block's Comet, and then B-Block Comet will be a buffer star for Gravity Gauntlet's Comet, and those are the 2 stars with the highest comet medal requirements in the run. So that's why I'm doing this star now. This star is basically the last part of Honey Hall's 2, but with Cosmic Clones. It's still just a bunch of long jumps. So yeah, there's nothing too much to say here. This star is still a little bit tricky though. You can still die on the star if you get thrown off a little bit. Yeah, not a whole lot to say there. That's the last time we'll be seeing those suckers in this run. So now we're going to be entering some of the late game run enders, as I like to call them. So these next 2 stars I have lost quite a few good runs to in the course of my career, because they're just really challenging to do without losing a ton of time. So this first one, B-Block Comet, this star outright lies to you because it says the blocks are now transitioning in double time, but if you remember, B-Block 1, they transitioned every 8 beats of the song. Now they switch every 2 beats or every other beat. So it's 4 times as fast on this star. In addition to that, the Silver Star area has expanded by quite a bit. Fortunately, this star we get Yoshi. At the beginning, Yoshi wasn't here in B-Block 1, so we're going to be able to do a bit of infinite flutter skip. Sometimes that just happens, and I have no idea why. So yeah, I'm just going to infinite flutter this, skip over all of this. And then I'm going to grab that checkpoint for safety. And now I can be... Okay. Already off to a wonderful start. You have to be pretty cautious here. If you make one wrong slip up, you're just dead. Okay. The blocks might switch at the last second. I don't know though. So I'm just going to spam shake and hope that I can land on the star platform. Okay. They didn't switch. That's good. So that star went well. Aside from the small little mishap at the beginning that cost me like a couple seconds. Cycles aren't nearly as important in that star, but obviously you still want to go as fast as possible. But yeah, once you get thrown off on that star, you just start panicking, and then it's super easy to die. And now it's time for probably one of the worst late game run enders in this category, Gravity Gauntlet Comet. So in Gravity Gauntlet 1, you saw me do the behind the castle skip. Here's where you're going to get to see the other skip. So the premise of this skip is when you hit a lava wall and then hit the lava again, you get boosted horizontally, and you get a ton of horizontal speed. And you can use this for a skip that's actually about 10 seconds faster than behind the castle. But this skip is really finicky. You have to do really precisely timed inputs while in the air to avoid dying. And dying to the skip loses about 35 seconds. And that's 2 hours and 50 minutes into a 3-hour run. So this run, the skip can kill a lot of good runs. And it has killed a lot of good runs for me. But this skip just looks too cool, so I'm going to, again, go for it until I get it. And once again, I need the life potion. Alright, here goes nothing. That should be good. Alright, perfect. That's very good. So yeah. It's super easy to miss the platform if you don't time your direction switches correctly, and sometimes if you land too far left, it's possible to just fall through the floor and die, which once killed PV Pace Wonderfine by happening 3 times in a row. That was a really good level. So yeah, that skip is very impressive to watch, but it's also very challenging to figure out. And thankfully after that we get a couple of nice breather stars before the final level. So first we have Starshine Beach Comet. So this is the comet that we have to go out of the way to get that fundamental for. And as you're about to see, it's a very, very fast star. So this star is more than worth getting the comet medal for. So this could have been a collectathon because of how open world this planet is, but they made this star incredibly easy. And there's actually 140 purple coins, so it's almost impossible to fail this star. This star is kind of tough to do optimally though, because you have to make very tiny adjustments on the default to work and not miss any purple coins. And optimally, you want to miss as few as possible. And the reason why is coming up here in a sec. So I'm actually going to take a detour and go off to the right here so I can cut a little bit of the corner. If I didn't have enough purple coins there, I would have had to take a bit of a shorter cut. But thankfully I was able to do that. So that just saves a couple seconds. It's not very significant. So now we're done with any stars we are wanting to collect in Worlds 1 through 5, so all that's left to do is 2 comets in World 6. And they're going to be Throwbacks and Flashbacks comets. So, Throwback Comet is basically just Throwback 2, but with a timer, and it's pretty much the exact same thing. And again, Nintendo gives you way too much time to do these missions, so the timer is kind of the least of your concerns. That being said, there is one minor difference in this star, and that's that some cycles at the beginning are going to be slightly different, because the level intro cutscenes show different parts of the level. So this first cycle is going to be a little bit tighter. But as long as you have decent movement and good timing with your long jumps, you should make it. But from here on out, it's going to be basically the same thing. So again, I'm going off to the right here so that I can have my long jump be over the abyss, and then gain a little bit back from the long jump. If you mess up this section and fall in the water, and you will lose Cloud Mario, and it loses a ton of time. Also, if you're too low here, that can be pretty costly. That wasn't too bad though. And now there's only 1 star left before we can close off the run. So the last star in the run that will get us to 70 stars is none other than Flashback Comet, which is right down here. So this star is kind of anticlimactic for being the 70th star, although I guess you really shouldn't expect much. But I like this star because it requires the skill of being able to multitask. There are 3 ways you can kill these Octumba enemies. You can either spin at them, jump on them, or shoot them with the star bit and then kick them. Most of them I'm going to try shooting them with star bits and then kicking them. I have to be able to collect star bits, aim them, keep track of my star bit counter, and control Mario all at the same time. So this is a pretty fun start to do. Although again, if you're on good pace, then your point is going to be really shaky. You guys are really nervous. You have to be careful though, because if you miss one of these shots and then try to run into the Archimbo, you just get hit. So far this isn't going too badly. So now we're going to get Yoshi at the end of the star, and he's going to be a bit useful to us because I got a little bit scared there, because sometimes these Archimbos can just knock you off with no hesitation. And Yoshi is useful because you can eat some of the enemies. And there we go, that is 70 stars. So now we're able to go on to Bowser's Galaxy Generator, and we can close off the run. But before we can enter Bowser's Galaxy Generator, we have to do the hardest skip in the run. So this skip takes a lot of practice to get down. So Lava wants to talk to us one more time. He wants to tell us how it's the final battle and we need to be ready and all that stuff. He wants to give us motivation. But we're going to say no to that and just skip over that cutscene entirely by just doing that. Yeah, that's a really hard skip. So I just saved 35 seconds and you probably didn't even notice it. Basically, there's a cutscene on that space right before the Galaxy Generator space. And if you click on the Galaxy Generator space with the Wii Remote, instead of moving there with the nunchuck, you skip over the cutscene entirely. And it was found by Oddme, and it's called Purple Idiot Skip because Lava's a purple idiot. And yeah. Sorry, Lava. Not sorry. Now we have Bowser's Galaxy Generator, which is a really good final level. There's a lot of really cool tricks in this level. So to start off here, we have another one of those lava wall boosts, which I'm going to do to skip these Hammer Brothers and to take by taking a big flower down here. This is much easier than the one grabbing off the comment. Fall all the way down here. We'll take this drill to get down here. And now I'm actually going to lose the drill intentionally because I want to be able to spin after jumping and also long jump. That'll allow me to skip a good majority of this section. This next section can look pretty stylish if I get the music properly, but you have to make sure all your cycles line up properly. That was a little scary, but I was able to save that pretty nicely. Okay. That was very sketchy. I'm surprised I made it through those little of the fumbles I did. Now we're coming up on what, in my opinion, is the coolest looking Infinite Flutter in the run, so I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's also a pretty big time-saving one. Although due to the 10-second cooldown, I actually have to do this flutter in 2 parts. I'm basically going to skip a giant Yoshi section and a bunch of Snake Block auto sprawlers by just Infinite Fluttering straight to the end of the level. So first I'm going to do this flutter to get on top of the castle. And I'm going to Infinite Flutter from here and then dismount at the very end to get all the way over to the final platform. That should land on the top platform. Nice, I got top shelf. So in order to land on the top platform like that, you need to have a good starting height for your flutter, and you need to dismount pretty late. Yeah, that skip saves quite a bit of time, even if you don't do top shelf. But you have to be really careful with your height, because if I were to go too high, I would have actually entered the gravity field of the cylinder planet, and then spiraled around it infinitely, which would cause a slot block, and I'd have to leave the level. Alright, and now it's time for this Bowser fight. So, this is probably the worst late game run ever of the whole run. Because Bowser does go back to dropping 3 meteors. The main difference with this fight is that he is way faster to pull out his punches. So you have very, very little time to react. And again, a missed hit is about 20 seconds, so you could easily be on good pace and then just kill your run to this fight 3 hours in, which is very annoying and frustrating and sad. So I'm once again going to be going for a punch cancel here, just like I did in Gravity Gauntlet. I'll use this meteor. You have to be careful because, again, the shell can deflect the meteors and its hitbox is slightly bigger in this way. Well, those first two hits, not too bad, but the third and fourth hits, especially the third hit, Bowser is very, very fast to pull out his punches. So you have to react really, really quickly here. And on the third hit, if you hit Bowser too late, you can hit him while he's summoning the meteors and then cancel that phase by accident, which means that when Bowser goes to punch, there's going to be no meteors for you to ground pound him, and then you lose another 20 seconds. Which just sucks. So you have to be really quick for that hit there. Sometimes Bowser can, if you aim it wrong, Bowser pulls out his fist before the meteor can reach him, and then he just zooms past and miss the hit. There's just so many ways you can have a run die to this fight. It's very sad. But we should be good. Alright, no missed hits. So, Bowser's totally dead, except, not really. Because I'm sure if you've ever played this game before, you're probably familiar with the fact that there is one more phase to this fight, but you gotta sit through all this. Unfortunately, there's no way to skip the final portion of the game. There's no way to trigger the end of the game early, because the star doesn't even have a visible hitbox. And plot twist, he's alive, gasp. So this final fight is ridiculously easy. It has the most epic music in the game, but you only get to hear it for about 20 seconds. And Bowser's one attack drops a coin, so it's pretty much impossible to die. You basically just ground pound 4 times and you win. You can miss hits on this fight, but you just kind of have to take your time and aim, and you should be good. Alright, one more hit. Alright. So time is going to be coming up in about 50 seconds. It'll be when I touch the final grand start, because that triggers the end of the game. So while we're sitting through this cutscene here, I'll go ahead and just say this. I know this is a very long run, but I have performed this run in, whoever is considering this run for a marathon, I have ran this game in many marathons before, including SGDQ 2019. And they have all received very positive reception. As you can tell, there's a lot of really great tricks in this run. There's a lot of cool skits you can do. My consistency is pretty high, and if I ever need to have the route memorized, I do have it memorized, so I don't need to use splits. But I'm currently, again, second place in this category, so I'm a very good person to show off this game if you want a 3D Mario game that doesn't get a lot of love. And we're coming up on time. And time! 3:02:58 is an insane time for a reset list. That is only a minute off my PB, and that is a very, very solid run overall. I'm very, very happy with that time. That would be a run I'd be more than happy with in a reset list. So, yeah, that is Super Mario Galaxy 2 Any%. I hope I did a really good job of showcasing this run. This run is very representative of the kind of run I would expect to get in a marathon. Not a run I would expect to get in a marathon. This run's actually really good for my standards, but this is a run that's very representative of what this game is like, and I'm very happy with how this went. So please, please give this game consideration. I love running this game for marathons, and yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you for considering this submission. Goodbye.